call the meeting to order. This is it. We continue to work hard to secure our future as an association during what appears to be an endless pandemic affecting not only our state, but our whole country. Faced with totally restructured operations, such as the Zoom meeting you're experiencing right now, we have to stand stronger than we ever have before. We have to keep engaged, even if it's only virtually, until we can gather in person again. Your association needs your support. Many districts have not continued to meet since the pandemic, which cannot be sustained if we wish to survive this pandemic and come out whole. I beg with you to support your local districts and support our districts. And to support our districts, I've asked Dean Wiley and myself have started a district support committee to help restructure and support every district when needed. And I don't want to steal Dean's thunder, so he's going to elaborate on that in new business. I will, however, welcome our new two chairs, Robert Keefe from Santa Clara Valley, as well as Jason Graff, our Mid-Cal District new chair. So welcome to the both of you. COVID has forced us to make difficult decisions I have shared in September at our last Board of Directors meeting. Beginning this month, we have outsourced our bookkeeping and tax preparation to Kramer and Associates. This will put both services under the same roof and provide a substantial cost saving to our association. We appreciate the years of dedication from our past bookkeeper, Janai, and of course, we wish her all the best luck in the future. We held our first brown bag lunch where we were fortunate to have two extremely talented HR professionals, Heather Garcia from Clark Pest Control and Layla Haas from Sprague Pest Solutions. The ladies held an open forum discussing COVID and the workplace with over 40 in attendance. You can look forward to many more brown bag lunches in the future. If you have any topic suggestions, we would love to hear from you. There is no charge for these virtual events. Thank you, Santa Clara District, and for hosting Chris Reardon and I to speak at your meeting. As we get back on our feet, we'll look forward to many more invitations from the districts yet to come. And that is the President's report. Chris?
Let me talk about a couple things this week. And by the way, folks, I don't know about you, but all in all, I'd rather be in Palm Springs about now, like we normally do. It's one of my favorite events that we do every year, and I know a lot of you look forward to it too, but we are where we are. Let me first talk about the issue that we've been sort of letting notifying. That's first AB 1788 implementation. I've talked to many of you over the last couple months. We actually met PCOC in our subcommittee led by Darren Van Steenwyk, sat down with DPR in mid-November to ask what I characterize as a fact-finding mission. They wanted to get all of our questions, concerns on the table. It wasn't a decision-making meeting. It was to sort of talk about our thoughts and ideas, our questions. We actually submitted a whole series of questions to them, hoping to get that they would be factored in their frequently asked questions that they're supposed to produce, along with their enforcement letter that we understand they're putting together now. So I think the good news is, if there is any good news, at least we put in there all of our concerns. We hope that the department will at least address those concerns in the two documents that will be coming out that I mentioned, enforcement letter and FAQs. As we speak today, I'm told by the end of this week or early next week, the guidance documents for us as it relates to implementation will be coming out. Our hope is, and we just talked about this recently with some of our executive committee and other folks, is that we're going to come out pretty quickly with some sort of, for lack of a better term, town hall meeting forum for many of you to ask questions. And I'm trying to get the department, a representative from DPR, to come in too when we do this. We're working with Pest Posse and some other folks to make sure we can do this forum and allow many of you to listen and ask questions as we get into the challenges related to AB 1788. As you know, let me reiterate again, we sent out 2 alerts, making sure that you are removing that second gen material before January 1st. Okay. Now I know that's going to be an enormous challenge undertaking for us, and it's something we're still trying to address with DPR. But as we sit here today, we want to make sure that you're all aware. January 1st is the target date, which at least theoretically, they can begin enforcement activity. So, but we hope, as I said, we hope we're still having literally ongoing discussions as we did yesterday with Dom Damari and some of our friends in the legislature as well to maybe get some assistance on this. So that's where we are in 1788. Please, we're probably going to be doing a PCOC alert once we find out the direction, and then we're going to do everything we possibly can to have some sort of virtual meeting, town hall, something like that as quick as we can, as soon as we know, okay, before we lead to January 1st next year. Secondly, upcoming events for the year. This has sort of been a unique challenge, as you know. We haven't had a public event since February of last year, and that was our Termite Academy in Berkeley. So the other challenge is, doing virtual events. Everyone else is doing virtual events, to find a way to do these events, because we know a lot of other folks are doing it in location, all those sorts of challenges related to doing virtual events. So the good news is we're doing Pest Ed. As you know, we've had it out now, and I think Sarah sends out something almost weekly now, is in mid-January. I hope you'll participate in our Pest Ed this year. We think it's a relatively, number one, terrific speakers, but reasonable amount of money because we don't have any overhead. So, but we also think it's important that we continue with Pest Ed as well, even though it's going to be virtual. Our hope is next year we'll be doing this like we always have. So if you look at February, we're also doing a virtual Termite Academy. We're excited about it. If you look at our agenda and our guest speakers, we're, while it's not going to be hands-on again, we're optimistic. A lot of the key elements are in this virtual, and we look forward to a huge turnout, because last year we had standing room only and people waiting to get in too. So excited about our Termite Academy again, and thanks for leadership of both Garrett Thrasher and Mike McKinsey on that. So that's also in mid-February, I think the 11th and 12th. Legislative days. As we speak today, folks, having talked to Dom Damari yesterday, it's very unlikely we're going to be doing a in-person legislative days, because the Capitol will be effectively locked down. So we are already talking about, as you remember last year, because it happened so quickly, we did a board of directors meeting, but we really didn't do anything else besides a board meeting. This year, not only we do a board meeting, but we're going to talk about bringing political folks in and regulatory folks in to talk to us virtually. Dom and I actually talked about it yesterday. I think the legislators and their offices are reaching out to people to say, hey, by the way, schedule time and meetings with us. They don't anticipate in-person meetings anytime this legislative session, at least in the near term. So that's what we're going to do. And so we'll be working through legislative days. Also, Expo as we speak. As many of you know, we intended to go to Disneyland this year. That was on our agenda. We were informed fairly recently that Disneyland will not be doing any sort of event till it looks like the third quarter of 2021. So, as you know, we don't want to go to Disneyland until we can fully utilize Disneyland. So we are looking, because of the uncertainty related to COVID this year and when things might open up. It appears this administration, the governor and folks are telling the third quarter at the earliest. Disneyland won't be open until third quarter of next year, not taking any reservations for events. So we have actually moved Disneyland to the summer of 2022, June 2022. We are also keeping up the possibility, like we did this year, folks, depending on the September time frame, our board meeting in September, once we determine where that is, that we might do a sort of a hybrid event like we anticipated last year, to have fun with our folks and booths and just the ability for our association to get together. So we're trying to be careful. Health's a priority, but we're also, boy, if we can sneak something in based on, the vaccine rollout and what this all looks like, we're hopeful we might be able to do something September, October of 2021. It's kind of crazy, folks. We will, we won't have event. It appears we're not going to have an event, a public event, till, probably earliest late summer or fall this year. And, that'll get us a year we've done no events. So we'll miss our two most significant events, our legislative days and our expo, which, as many of you know, is our significant events for us both, not only from a personal standpoint, from a financial standpoint. So, but it's, hey, look, we're like a lot of other people, we're adjusting and reacting. And I know Tom's going to talk about that later, but that's the reality we live in. And in California, because of what's occurring, I fully anticipate none of the things I just mentioned to you is going to change. So that's our upcoming events, at least how we see them. And let me just thirdly talk about challenges, because just because we have COVID, our challenges aren't going away. We could very well face this year, as you know, the governor signed 1788. Despite our fight over the last 5 years, we could potentially be facing legislation to remove the state pesticide preemption issue, which I want you to think about this, folks. We have 450 cities, 58 counties, and minimum 100 special districts, water districts that use pesticides. Imagine, if you would, they all had their own authority, okay? What a disaster that would be for not only for us, but people trying to bring product in the state. So, and the reason I raise that issue is the sponsors, after the governor signed the bill, said that's our next challenge, is to remove preemption in the state, to give local communities the ability to manage their own pesticide regulatory affairs. Folks, it would be a disaster, an absolute, complete disaster. The only good news for us is that there's going to be a lot of people in this fight as well, if in fact we see this bill. So I just want to give a heads up, just because COVID's around. And here's the other thing too I'll mention on preemption. As we saw last year, when you can't meet with people in person, it presents a huge challenge. So I want to give folks a heads up, and Dom's aware of this too, but so we're going to watch that carefully. And just another issue I want to just put on people's radar, and I heard some actually good news yesterday in this whole, what I call mandatory pesticide notification bill. Former Senator Dean Flores from the Fresno area has been talking to folks about any pesticide professional who applies pesticides should be notifying when they're applying material. What I understand today is that material would be on the ag side. It'd be permitted material on the agricultural sector. So it doesn't include us right now, but I just want I want folks to be aware that at least there's been some discussion of that, and I don't want people to be surprised too if in fact we're somehow in the middle of this too. I'm not going to, Tom mentioned before, Dean talked about, Dean will be talking later, but the whole district participation, we've seen, because of COVID, some of our districts drop off, and not, because of maybe Zoom challenges or other technical challenges. We want to make sure that our districts continue to thrive and continue to meet any way we can. We're going to want to find out today, after today's meeting, we've talked to some of you about ways that we can help districts do their meetings. And again, Dean will be talking about that as well. And just lastly, let me talk about, I call the term financial clarity. Because of, most of you know, our revenue is 50%, 50% of revenue comes from events. And that's increased significantly over the last couple of years. And because we can't, frankly, we haven't done an event, and it doesn't look like we're going to do an event, public event anytime soon, particularly our money makers, and most, it will continue to challenge us, folks, in the future. We've been very careful. Greg will talk about our budget. It's a pretty slimmed down budget. We're not doing much of anything besides just what I call operational, plus, the other activities that we do on a daily basis. Nothing's really changed for us. But the good news is our budget's been, drastically changed, because we're not traveling, we're not producing events that cost. So I just wanted to raise that issue too, because that will challenge us into the future because of where we are with COVID. So those are the issues that I've talked about. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them too.
Thank you, Chris. Chris, while you're still unmuted, would you mind, and I apologize, I skipped over the executive committee minutes.
Yes. I'll be very brief. The meeting was called to order by Tom Graston on December 3rd, 7:05. Roll call. Everyone was in attendance. Approval of minutes from June. Motion made by Dave Watkins, seconded by Dean Wiley. Tom just actually talked about his president's report, all the key issues in his president's report. Greg Augustine reported our report on our current budget, liabilities, equities. I also gave my report, and a lot of the things that I gave in my report I talked about this morning. Under new business, Tom will be talking about the two issues that under our new business and our agenda today. We talked about our membership report. I gave just a brief update on our membership report. Motion to adjourn at the meeting was made at 10:14 by Dean Wiley, seconded by Mary Hernandez. That's the executive committee.
Okay, thank you, Chris. I'd like to call on Greg Augustine for the treasurer's report.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Before I go into the treasurer's report, I have a follow-up question on something Chris said. Chris, you said that preemption would be a disaster, and I certainly, that resonates deeply with me, and particularly in your role as EVP of Pest Control Operators of California. But if you switch your hat back to your role at DPR, how does your team and the folks from all the way to the top, Val Ducini to the brand new hire at DPR, feel about this? Is this something that there are folks inside DPR that would embrace this, or do they, if you were still in your old role, how would you describe preemption?
I can tell you when I was there, we adamantly opposed preemption because they don't have the scientific evaluation component of it. We also talked about just the challenges currently DPR's construct under the way they do their business at the state level, Greg. And imagine if you have to do that at every local level. Imagine if counties had their individual. So, by the way, this was a discussion that I know the chief deputy at the department opposes. Val hasn't talked to me yet about preemption. The only thing he said to me was, I can't imagine that would ever work in California. The uncertainty in all this, Greg, is, where would be the governor's office or the agency? It makes me nervous. It also makes me nervous because of the challenges with the number of Democrats in both houses, the super majorities in both houses.
And where would the ag commissioners weigh in on this, Chris? How would they feel?
Oh no, they'd oppose. They'd oppose because think about it. You'd have to have a budget to do this. They have biologists, and there's a lot of technical understanding. They're not scientists. So they're going to depend on the department in terms of the registration evaluation, worker health and safety. I mean, all the sort of challenges that the department encompasses, there's no way that can be done at the local level. No way.
And is there a working model for this? Are there any other states that have that are designed without state preemption, or would we be the first, would be the tip of the spear?
Oh no, there's, by and large, most of the country, Greg, I think with the exception of 6 states, have preemption. And they understand why, because if you go down that road, and like I said, can you imagine what that would take in individual cities and counties? The only good news is on preemption, Big Ag in this state actually told me that this would be a hill they die on. The vector control districts, you're going to literally have a rural-urban split on this, in terms of the counties. And you'll have a differential, even in individual counties, where the cities will have a different point of view. So this is an enormous challenge in California, just because of the makeup and just the mass quantity of differences with constituencies.
And then one last question, sort of from the devil's advocate. For the folks that are in favor of this, what is their rationale, reason? What is their desired result? What are they trying to achieve? What is their objective?
Well, they're going to say, by the way, we don't want to be told at the state level what to do in our own local communities. We should have the right at our own local communities to make those decisions on pesticide regulatory issues. That sounds nice. That's, you put it on a bumper sticker, but it doesn't solve the problem. And it would be an enormous undertaking. But that's their view, is local communities should make their own local calls. That's their view.
All right. Well, now on to the treasury report. Thank you, team. Thank you for indulging me with that answer, Chris. Thank you. Okay, treasury report, December 10th, 2020. That's today. I'm looking at the balance sheet as of October 31, 2020. We'll start with the assets. Total checking savings are $310,692 and are composed of checking, dues money market, building reserve, equipment impound, legal impound, regulatory response, and encumbered reserves. Total accounts receivable is $351,342 and are composed of 1920 state dues of $82,228, 1920 district dues of $16,293, 1920 PAPCO of $64,045, 2021 state dues of $101,623, 2021 district dues of $23,216, 2021 PAPCO of $63,970. Other with a credit balance of $33. Total other current assets are $15,056 and are composed of prepaid insurance, prepaid expenses such as event deposits, and suspense, which are pass-through expenses. Total fixed assets are $168,079 and are composed of land, automobile, building improvements, and furniture and fixtures, all net of accumulated depreciation. Total other assets are $3,555, and this is the equity PCOC group, which is the PCOC.
That's it, Greg?
Hello? Was I muted for all of that?
No.
I just unmuted myself. I hope I was heard.
I think you just actually muted yourself right at the end.
Okay, thank you, Tom. All right, can you hear me now?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Continuing with the treasury report, moving on to the liabilities and equity portion of the balance sheet as of October 31, 2020. Total current liabilities are $63,033 and are composed of trade, auto loan, district dues, and PCOC cares. Trade is bills owed but not paid. Total other current liabilities are $503,492 and are composed of payroll liabilities of $3,486, deferred 1920 state dues of $83,396, deferred 1920 district dues of $31,771, deferred 1920 voluntary PAPCO contributions of $75,424, deferred 2021 state dues of $101,789, deferred 2021 district dues of $80,622, deferred 2021 voluntary PAPCO contributions of $105,830, vacation payable of $21,120, and sales tax accounts receivable of $53. Total equity, moving on from current liabilities on to the next, total equity is $282,198 and is composed of retained earnings of $35,811 and net income of $246,387. Total liabilities and equity balance out at $848,724. Now we move on to the statement of activities for the period ending October 31, 2020. This financial statement represents 33.32% of our total budgeted year. Income. Total income for the current period, the month of October 2020, is $26,119. Total income for the year to date, the 4 months ending October 31, 2020, which is 1/3 of our fiscal year, is $426,093. This is 48.3% of the budgeted amount. Expenses. Total expenses for the current period, the month of October 2020, are $45,974. Total expenses for the year to date, the 4 months ending October 31, 2020, which is 1/3 of our fiscal year, are $180,516. This is 20.4% of the total budgeted amount. The statement of activities for the current period, the month of October 2020, reported a net loss of $19,855. The statement of activities for the year to date, the 4 months ending October 31, 2020, which is 1/3 of our fiscal year, reported a net income of $246,387. Before I open it up for questions, I have two prepared editorial comments. And even before I do that, I sort of feel like Ted Baxter. You know, I've never been on TV in my entire life, but I feel like a Mary Tyler Moore show and Ted Baxter here. At any rate,
Thanks, Ted.
I would like to point out that we're 1/3 of the way through the year and we have 48% of our income. So income is doing well, but of course we haven't got to the event. So obviously we're reaping the benefits of the dues, and we haven't got to the point of the year where we're not reaping the benefits of our events. So we're kind of in that dry spell where we wouldn't be necessarily having revenue generating events. But so we are ahead in that regard. But I also like to point out on the expense side, we're 1/3 of the way through the year and our expenses are only 20% of our budgeted year. So I think you're going to see this as a trend as we move through this year. Our revenue, until we get to the events and don't count and miss that revenue, we're going to be ahead of budget, and our expenses are going to be well behind budget, as Chris and Tom have both pointed out, that we're just not spending money on things we would ordinarily be spending money on. Then to sort of keep track of the events, I've made a little cheat sheet here, and I'll just go through this relatively quickly. You can find these numbers on the financial statement, but I'm looking at my cheat sheet. The annual expo, both from an income and expense point of view, is 0. There are no entries in either income or expense. The candidate research fundraiser, which is primarily fundraisers from you all, golf tournaments and whatnot, our revenue at this point is down considerably. It's $266 of fundraising from you all, and our expenses are tracking at $25,000, which is a commitment we pay to our lobbying team, Don Damari. Chemtrek, the income side is $750. I guess I don't quite understand how the income flows in on there. Maybe someday I might learn this year. The expenses so far in Chemtrek are 0. The Green Pro Certification Program, we have $825 revenue and no expenses. And I don't think there are ever any expenses with the Green Pro program. Leadership Seminar, for some reason or another, we have $3,320 of income related to that. So I think we've garnered that perhaps from the districts and maybe some other sources. I don't know if it's sponsors, but so far no expenses on the Leadership Seminar. Ledge Day, we have a $150 credit in the income side. So somehow we've spent $150 and then no expenses at all. Pest Ed Conference, 2 goose eggs, no income, no expenses. So far, Termite Academy, 2 goose eggs, no income, no expenses. Those numbers may change, but I wanted to share those numbers with you folks because I think as we move through these COVID years, it's funny, I think we thought this was going to be a COVID quarter and it's going to turn out to a COVID 2 years, I think, but nevertheless, we need to keep track of how our events are doing and the related expenses to them. So now, with those 2 editorial comments out of the way, questions regarding these financial statements?
Greg, I have a question regarding the dues. You have $359,000 year-to-date in dues. Is that received dues or is that billed dues?
You know, I'm a CPA and I don't have the answer to that, but we have a new team in place and I will work with them to figure that out and perhaps be able to give a clearer answer to that question. And I would ordinarily ask Janai, but she's moved on, and I will be asking and working with the new people. I do feel they're going to probably thoroughly, I don't think, not probably, I know they're going to thoroughly address every line item in our financial statements, and I hope to have a clearer grasp of that line item and be able to answer your question in March, Mike.
Yeah, I think in the past that's been an area of confusion because we were on an accrual basis. So when we mailed the bill, we recognized the revenue, and then we had a system to balance that with doubtful accounts. And then towards the end of the year, those numbers would merge. So I'd be interested to find out the new process for that.
I think it will be completely reworked. That's my expectation. I imagine we won't see this exact format going forward.
Just to add to that, Mike, I've asked Kramer and Associates to join us on our next Board of Directors meeting to answer any questions. So, to be more transparent and to clear up a lot of this.
And I think it's too early. They started on December 1, so they're 8 days or 10 days into it. I think it would be too early for them to answer these questions at this point. I think they're deep in the weeds trying to figure things out, and we'll be able to sort things out and come up with a new presentation of our financial statements and then be able to answer the questions from their own reference point. I guess the best answer is I don't really know. We'll work on it.
Yeah, and I guess a follow-up question would be, how is our dues collection activity? Are we, do we have a percentage of dues that we've collected, and what's out there billable?
Yeah, it's actually, Mike, we've actually been in pretty good shape this year. I think that 359 is really, sort of the kind of where we are today, for a lot of different reasons. But the good news is that we got dues faster this year than we've ever received them generally in previous years, at least since I've been around here. So actually, the dues collection has been, in my view, very productive this year. And folks have really, we've reached out to them, and by the way, there's no even debate about they've moved, and it's a credit to this association and our membership what they've done this year, because that's sort of kept us in the game.
Well, as you may recall, I believe we mailed out the due statement a bit early, and I think for the most part the membership still pays year in advance. There are some people that go on a payment plan, but for the most part people pay year in advance, and they also know to get in the directory, you got to have your dues paid. So I would suspect, Mike, that most of the dues have been actually paid with cash, and we've received the money.
And plus our friends in the 2020, as you know, just our, between the districts and our 2020 club, it's, people have really stepped up.
I'm glad you brought that up, Chris. The 2020 club is still wide open. It's probably going to turn into 2021 club, but at any rate, we'll keep it going. And thank you to each person and company that has generously donated to that fund. It's up to what, $33,459. That's a significant number.
If there's no further questions, can I get a motion to approve the treasurer's report?
So moved, Larry Treelevin.
I'll second that, Ray Carrier.
Ray Carrier, second it. Thank you. I'm going to move into new business. I sent out some packets.
We have to vote on it?
Preview.
You did a first, second. Are you supposed to vote?
No.
Oh, no?
No.
Okay.
There's no motion required.
No motion, yeah, I was going to say no motion for.
All right, thank you.
So I sent out a packet, and I apologize. I put that there would be two motions. Basically, there's going to be two discussions. One in regards to the building, and one in regards to the dues. So I just want to lay it all out. I know we're on Zoom, and it's important to hear everybody's word. I talked to Lee, and Lee and I were talking one day, and we said, it's important that, even though this is on Zoom, I'm asking that if you have any concerns or if you have any questions, this is your association. I put this forward, like I'm putting together things that we worked on as an executive team or on our various committees, and that's to present it to you. This is not making a decision. You're not going to hurt my feelings at all. This is my role. This is your association. So I'm going to be bringing it up in a conversation. Then I'm going to ask for a motion. If a motion is taken, we're going to open up the chat line. The chat line is for you just to put your name that you would like to speak. I've asked, I have some people here that I've asked to join us. Dave from Edward Jones is on the call right now to answer any questions in regards to what I'm going to share with you. So this is your opportunity. I just want to make sure it's really important that you understand you're not going to hurt my feelings, that this is your association, and that's important to understand. What I've been working on, and what we've been working on, is we've been working on moving, looking at moving our location, our operation closer to, move it into Sacramento, closer to the state building. Now, I understand a lot of you live in Southern California, and maybe you're thinking that West Sacramento is just a couple of blocks away. but it isn't. The building that we have in West Sacramento, if we were to move our operation closer to the state capitol, I'm looking at that we would lease a building there and we would sell the building that we're in now. Now, there's a couple other options that we did look at previously. One being, what if we rented out the building? So we move over to leasing. And what if we leased our building that we have right now, being that it's an investment? The issue we came up with that is that even with all the work I've done, and believe me, not just me, I'm talking about we have done as an association in the past 5 years to bring up the quality of that building and to remodel it, there's still a lot of work that has to be done. And that work would have to be done prior to us ever leasing it out. We looked at actually cutting the building in two, kind of, to speak. I had Vince Schofield, who's the building chair. He came down and we looked at what would the options be if we rented out the warehouse and a couple of offices. And it comes down to, we would also need to put in a bathroom. We would need to, there's a lot of other things to this, with leasing being at 95 cents a square foot on average for West Sacramento. We would be looking at potentially, $1,800 a month revenue, but we still are in a building that still needs a lot of work. Right now, I know over years past, I've showed you pictures of how the building is doing, and these are all improvements that we're working on. But what I haven't showed you is a lot of the improvements that are still needed. So that is, like how the building is looking right now, and this is where our discussions have been. So we're looking at potentially moving our operation closer to the state capitol, and we'd be selling the building. So what are some of the benefits in selling the building? One of the benefits is, one thing we've talked about in the past we don't have is an emergency fund. And COVID-19 had really given us a good scare when we first rolled it out. So without an emergency fund, what this would mean is that we would take the proceeds from the sale after commissions paid, and we could put $200,000 into an investment fund that would be accessible for an emergency situation. So what would define an emergency situation? We are planning to put some protocols into our bylaws, and who can touch that money and how many signatures are required. For example, we're saying that the executive vice president would have to have his signature on it, the current president and the current treasurer, all three would have to approve for any emergency funds to be removed from that account. The balance of the sale would go into another investment account. So for you that are thinking, well, why would we get rid of real estate, which investment account? We're not getting rid of an investment. We're actually taking this investment and we're moving it over from real estate to a mutual fund account. And now the mutual fund account that we'd be investing in would lock us in, and it would drive a monthly revenue for us. So this is what we've been working on at this point. I want to ask Chris Reardon to step in right now and to share with us what his views are on the benefits of moving closer to the Capitol. Chris?
Yeah, Tom, thank you. It wouldn't surprise any of you if I said, one of the challenges, I always chuckle with Dominic, because most of his office is literally right across the street from the state capitol. And they make a regular opportunities to invite legislators, key regulators, and key people to either over for breakfast, lunch, or a cocktail. And I've often thought, and by the way, it's, part of the challenge is because of the sort of nature of the political business. People move in and out, and it's always, people are just not going to get in their car and come to West Sacramento. And yes, we've had folks here. We've had DPR here a couple times. We've even had US EPA here. But the challenge is, on a regular basis, candidly, it would be nice to have Val Dulcini stop by. Be nice to have the chairman of a key committee stop by. Many of you have heard me talk about would be, alternate annually with leadership to come by and have a cocktail or a lunch with us and by the way, in our executive committee and our key people. So, the right location, if in fact this could be worked out, okay, would be advantageous for us, because I think many of you heard me say this, when I spoke to your districts and at these meetings, that when push comes to shove, relationships matter. They're really the only thing that matter for us. And so to have relationships, to invite people over on a regular basis, to be close in proximity where people don't have to get in their cars to come over here would be advantageous to us. So, I think, someone asked me recently how many meetings, it might've been Greg, how many meetings when you were downtown did you participate? And I said, God, I've literally had hundreds over the years, both when I was in the Capitol, at DPR, because you're constantly moving around sort of that area for meetings and offices. And so that's just the sort of nature of the business.
Thank you, Chris. So with that in consideration, there's one thing else I wanted to bring up. It was originally when we purchased this building, we had talked to Bobby Gordon was, actually Bobby Gordon was actually on the executive committee back in 1985 or 1984 when this building was coming out, and I think so was Alan Kennedy. But I just want to say, like the warehouse and everything, I've even looked at what would it cost to remodel the warehouse and be able to use it for meetings and for training and potentially raise revenue that way. Some of the cost to bring that up where it would be, adequate to pass any permit would be very costly and would not be cost effective. Especially now, there's some lessons what we've learned through COVID that we can operate through Zoom, and I think a lot of us are learning in a whole different way to actually operate in our business and operate in our within our association. With that said, I sent out the packet. The packet kind of breaks down a little bit what the property would approximately go for. It also breaks down what the cost of the leasing would be to lease a building. Now, I understand we own this building right out, and this has been a great investment from previous members from years ago, and believe me, it's served us all well. This is an older building now, and this building needs a lot more work, and that train is coming down the track. That's not going to change if we keep the building. But on the other note, it showed that this is not a free building anymore. We still pay taxes. As you can see, that was on the treasurer's report. We have $9,200 budgeted for taxes. We pay $4,500 a year for water and sewer and garbage. And we also pay $3,600 a year for landscaping to keep that property looking good. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. Really, there's a lot of expenses that come in operating bill, which you're all aware, and I'm sure. So at this point, I'd like to ask if somebody would like to make a motion to move forward with this idea.
I'm Mary Hernandez. I make a motion to move forward with the idea of moving our office closer to the Capitol.
Second.
So I have, can I get a clear, can you clearly state what that motion is, Mary, please?
I make a motion for us to look for a location closer to the Capitol for us to move our office into a rental building and to sell the existing building. Does that cover it all?
Yes. I guess.
Okay.
I second it, Tom.
And it's seconded by Billy Gaither. Now,
Correct.
thank you. Thank you, Billy. I'd like to now open it up. Please go to the chat room. And if you'd like to participate in any discussion, I would love to hear from you.
Tom, I'd like to make or ask a question.
Sure.
This is Jim Shockey.
Hey, Jim.
Hi. What at this time, what's the price of leasing downtown?
So I sent out in a packet was just some examples. Of course, this is ever changing right now. So we're looking at the approximate would be 4,000 and under. If you look at some of these, there's some, It would just depend on a lot of factors. So I'm using 4,000 at the top end because there's a couple of factors I would like to look at before we sign a lease. One is, what is the long term for, like for the association? I don't want to see this going up. The next thing you know, 10 years from now, we're looking at, we kind of dug our own grave kind of thing. So that is one factor. One is accessibility, parking, and how close it is to the state capitol. I like to keep it walking distance, and at my age, walking distance is half a block. But for most people, it's basically about half a mile. So that's kind of what we're looking at, Jim.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Any other discussion?
Hey, Tom, how many square feet are you looking at to lease then?
Well, Larry, right now with the change in our staff, we're operating now with only 3 people. So we're looking for, right now we're in 4,400 square feet and we don't use this all. What we need is 3 fair size offices and a meeting room, as well as, whether it has a common kitchen, bathroom, or room for a kitchen and a bathroom. So it could be anywhere approximately, I was guesstimating when I was talking to Collier, was at about approximately 1,500 square feet.
Okay, thank you. And also, what would our building sell for? Do we have an idea of what that would sell?
Yes. So now we had since this is all just ideas, I didn't want to invest the $3,000 or $5,000 it was to actually go ahead and get an official appraisal on the building. We basically had it comped out in what's called a BOV. And the BOV kind of gives us just a general idea of what the building would sell for. So we're guesstimating that the building would go between $780,000 and $800,000. And that includes the combined lot next door, because on paper, even though it looks like an extra lot, if you haven't been there, it's got a huge a huge lot beside it. Even with that, that is actually down as one lot. So it's not separated on paper.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah, Tom, this is Jerry Bryan. Just a question for you.
Hey, Jerry.
Have you entertained getting bids from a builder? That'll save you a lot of money, because the builder is going to go in and just wipe out that whole building and put apartments out there or another office building or whatever, but save you an awful lot of money.
I'm sorry, Jerry, I didn't understand. You're talking about to sell the property to a builder?
Yes.
Actually, if this motion passes, that is everything we would look for. I don't know if we would get the same dollar amount for just the land without the building. One of the key features that was explained to me is why this building would sell is that it has a warehouse and its location is centrally located to a lot of freeways. So you're close to 99, 5, 80 going towards San Francisco, then 80 going towards Reno. So you're basically, with the warehouse, it's a good central spot. That warehouse would be the selling point.
Hmm. Okay, just a question.
Thank you, Jerry.
Hey, Tom.
Any further discussion?
Tom,
Yes, sir.
have you researched the long-term possibilities for a lease to keep the rates down, like a 10-year lease if you move downtown?
Yes, and currently, so the original budget that we were looking at was a little bit higher when we're trying to figure out everything, thinking of on a long-term lease. One of the advantages I was looking at was being COVID. The information I gathered at first was that a lot of these buildings are not being utilized downtown. So with that would increase the amount of vacancy. More people working from home would leave more opportunities for us. And I wanted to jump on that opportunity to lock in a lease that would be long-term, so we're not worrying about this down the road. Unfortunately, all these leases that, even though people are working from home, one thing about COVID, it seems like it's been like that carrot in front of us, where all of a sudden we continue to it'll be another couple of months, it'll be another couple of months. Nobody said at the beginning, so, okay, you know what, we're in the middle of a pandemic, nothing's going to happen until fall of 2021. So it's been that reason is why a lot of the leases continue to be paid and maintained by the present occupants. So that's what we're faced with on that. I'm hoping that by the time, so the picture I sent you now of what it would cost to lease and operate is a picture of it now. What I'm hoping is that after the building would sell, that we would be, and we're starting to look for another building, or that we would have a different a landscape to actually look at, so that we could actually, get a better deal. So, but I wanted to paint the picture of this is what it looks like today. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any further questions? Lee?
Tom, I have a question for Billy Gaither. Billy, you're a past president, former employee of PCOC, probably spend as much time in and around that building as anybody. I know you don't live in Sacramento, but give me kind of the essence of you voted, you seconded the motion. I was just curious your reasons for wanting to move, Billy.
Well, I pretty much agree with everything that Tom laid out. Politically, it makes sense. It puts us close to the Capitol, puts us close to the area where it's easier to deal with people such as DPR and perhaps federal EPA if this process of preemption and may involve federal EPA. I don't know, but at least they're there all in the same building. And from the employee side of it, it is a huge building. It's a lot to maintain it. If you sell the building off and move into a smaller office space, you don't have all of those maintenance costs associated with the building. I think it's my opinion in the long run, it will benefit the association by making this decision and going forward.
Thank you, Billy.
Welcome.
This is John Sandstone. I guess my question is, what is the current building costing you a month versus what you're going to have to spend downtown? I would assume that most of the leases are triple net. I'm wondering if we're just diluting an asset and we're going to maybe have to take some of that money to be able to offset, say, the increased costs of the lease. And eventually we will have kind of spent the money that, for the sale on the building over the next few years anyways. And can somebody kind of address the costs on that?
Sure can. Hi, John. As I stated earlier, and as I put in the packet, right now we have operating costs on the building, and just without repair, without any remodel, without anything coming down, we spend $9,200 a year on our taxes. We spend $4,500 on our water and sewage, $3,600 a year on our landscaping. And I believe PG&E is in the $6,000 range. And I'm talking this is what it costs per year. So on the average, I'm guesstimating this is about $1,500 to $1,700 a month. So, and that's without the repair. And that's the key thing there. Taking the money and taking the gains from the property, investing them into mutual funds, which would be the two accounts. One would be into an account that we can be easily accessible, and that would be our emergency fund. This would resolve the issue of the emergency fund. Instead of us paying for a loan or we would have that money already set aside, not earning much, but it'd be earning a little bit. At least it wouldn't be costing us. Second account would be the capital of it. So the principal of that account would not be touched, and we would be taking a monthly income on that. I have Dave from Edward Jones on the phone right now, or on the committee. Dave, would you like to add anything to that to answer that question?
Yeah, Tom, thanks very much for having me. So really the idea here that Tom and I have been discussing along with Chris is that If you take an asset that's not really earning you an income and turn it into an asset that is going to be able to earn an income, now you've got a positive cash flow and you don't have the maintenance to deal with. So by putting it into something that's very widely distributed, diversified, it mitigates risk that some may feel, well, we don't want to take what we have and put it out there and risk losing it. But the reality is the markets are long-term investments. And when you look at them historically, just thinking of the S&P 500, the average on the S&P 500 is 9.5% average annual return for 50 years. But it's not up every year. So if you just use that as a metric, 11 years out of the last 50, the market's been down. But that means it's been up 78% of the time. So about 3 out of every 4 years, on average, the investment market is up. Now, when you balance that out and you don't just go with straight stock investments, but also bonds, now you mitigate risk because now you're talking about a balanced portfolio that is widely diversified. And just to give you an idea, if you took $500,000 out of this building, put it into a long-term investment, using an average rate of return of 6.14%, which is pretty moderate. We're not shooting for the moon here. We're looking for a nice, good balance. At 6.14%, the first year interest growth on that would be nearly $31,000. Now, if you let that compound, let's say you didn't touch it, you let it compound, the next year it's going to be over almost $33,000. And over 10 years, a $500,000 investment averaging a modest rate of return at just over 6% would turn into $907,000 in investment monies. And that can go a long way in utilizing for what the association is doing. And that doesn't even mean touching the other portion, which is going to be in safe interest bearing for the what do you call that, Tom?
Emergency fund.
Thank you. Couldn't even think about it. So the emergency fund would be kept totally separate. And that emergency fund would literally keep you afloat for a couple of years. Should you need money and the markets are going against us 1 year, you don't need to touch that. And then really, we shouldn't be touching that. That should be growing. So hopefully that gives you a little bit of idea that an investment is not to just be a net zero game. It's designed to grow and build on those accounts over. And after 10 years, that 6.14%, when you're compounding it, that's over $52,000 in that 10th year. And it just keeps going. So if you know anything about the rule of 72, depending on what type of interest rate you earn, you divide that into 72, and that's how many years it takes for your money to double. So at 6% divided into 72, the money would literally double every 12 years. So there's some real opportunities here. And the proposal that I gave to Tom really is what all institutions are using. It's called advisory solutions. It's a managed program with a lot of different checks and balances built into it with a long-term track record. And I'd be happy to answer any questions on those things.
Thank you, Dave. John, does that answer your question?
Yeah, Tom, I guess, and what would we be looking at to spend, say, downtown? And currently you have storage at the West Sacramento office, and I know we're trying to sell, shirts and different things. How much storage do you actually utilize out of that building, and how much would you continue to utilize in the future?
A lot of, in regards to the storage, so a lot of things have changed because of the internet. PCOC does not sell as many forms, and like as what we used to sell before. And a lot of that storage can be moved from the current warehouse to a linen closet. That's how much we're doing right now. Electronically, a lot of this, is saved on the computers. As far as the T-shirts and we're moving towards merchandise like this, that's not stored at all. That is actually all through a second party in which they store it all, they print it all, then they send it out from that location. So there's, I'm not thinking that the storage issue would be of any a problem at all. Unless, Billy, do you think there's anything? I know you've been very active with what's going on in the warehouse. Can you see of any storage issues?
I don't, excuse me, I don't. It's just that we underutilize so much of that space down there. Probably if you laid out the square footage of that warehouse, we were probably using less than 1/10 of what's there. Where there's not a whole lot left in storage at this time.
Sarah and I have done a very good job of cleaning a lot of the stuff out of there too.
And I just want to mention too that Billy, he's been very instrumental in in going through, and because he has the history of PCOC, so things that we had in that storage area are no longer needed because we have things on digital files, and a lot of the stuff, like, he's a part of the history committee, and so all of our photos and everything like that are completely stored elsewhere, and those can be we're going to digitize those are things that that's what we're looking to do, is digitize all that, so that we're preserving the photos, we're keeping the history of PCOC, and then we're still going to keep the original photos, but we don't need to have all the storage space for those anymore. We really don't.
And a lot of the things we store down there are anywhere from 25 to 30 years old, and are not relevant anymore. I mean, we've got books on pesticides that go back 35 years, and they talk about chloridane and Dersban or chlorpyrifos. And a lot of those things are like that. They're just not relevant anymore. It's nothing that's used in this industry anymore. We have a lot of insect mounts that have literally fallen apart over the years because they have not been taken care of.
Tom, John asked what you think we're going to pay for rent downtown. Maybe I missed it. Did you answer? I see your numbers here on this that you sent out to us, the taxes, everything, all that comes to $1,900 a month that we're spending now for the building. What do you expect to pay downtown for rent? I know it's a kind of moving target with COVID and whatnot, but sort of not even a best case scenario, just sort of middle of the target. What do you think we're going to spend for a rent downtown?
So as mentioned before, I took a snapshot. I had them take a snapshot of what it looks like today. With anticipation, a lot of projections, are that this will drop somewhat, and the amount of vacancies will increase after the new year. But in the snapshot today, the most that we would pay would be a $4,000. So $4,000. And it goes, if you look at the handout or the pamphlet or whatever it was that I sent you, it's called the BOV, you can see that actually even drops down to about 2,000. So it varies on how close we are to the capital, the age of the building, the build out, the size that we're looking for. We're guesstimating that we're looking anywhere, like approximately about 1,500 square feet. So that's where it sits right now. That savings of the $1,900 you just talked about, combined with revenue that is driven through our second investment, which would be the remaining balance from the sale after we put the $200,000 into for the emergency fund, would be the revenue that we would have to spend.
Well, I guess I would say it'd be nice not to have to take the revenue from that mutual fund, because all of the numbers that the gentleman just shared with us change dramatically if you start eating off of that as well, and perhaps we can pay for it out of our own regular budget, but we'll see. But again, it's a net increase of $2,000 because we're spending $1,900, and again, as you've made the point many times before, any repair and maintenance. So I imagine we're spending close to $4,000 a month. I mean, off and on. Some years we do a lot of maintenance and roofs and whatnot, and other years we don't. But okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I guess
Lee?
one last question I would have.
Oh, go ahead, John.
You said that in order to lease the West Sacramento building, you'd have to do some repairs and et cetera. Wouldn't you also have to do some repairs to sell the building? And do we have any idea what that might be?
Actually, I'm sure we will, John. I didn't have the walkthrough yet. But I do have a commitment from Vince Schofield, who's chairing our building committee, and we're looking to do whatever we need to do, hopefully with people within the industry, and be able to get it taken care of. We're looking at, according to just from the conversation with Spencer Bones, who's Vice President of Colliers, he shared with me that a lot of this stuff that, you know, like we were talking about that would have to be done if we were to stay would most likely not be necessary for selling the building, because they would probably want to do their own build out. Lee?
Thank you, Tom. It
Hey, Lee.
seems like can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Seems like you've done, you know, a lot of legwork, you know, on this, and, you know, I commend you for all the work that you've done. You know, I guess the one, you know, there's a few concerns, and I would say that I'm opposed to the move, and I'll go through some of the reasons why. But in general, to me, it seems like, you know, this is the single greatest asset of our organization. And it seems like this is something that should be vetted more, come out with 30-day notice, and be addressed either at a special meeting, you know, general meeting, or be brought up during our annual meeting, you know, to be discussed by all members, and not a decision that would be reached during, you know, a board of directors with essentially no notification to all of the members of this association. This is an asset of all of us, right? You know, it involves everyone, not just the executive committee, not just the board of directors, but all members of our association. And it doesn't seem right to me that we would even entertain, you know, an idea of selling the greatest asset that we have in our association, you know, without actually engaging with some of our members, you know, or all of our members, and coming to that point or decision, even though it seems like, you know, you've made a good case as to why, you know, it might be a good idea. You know, to me, it seems like this is something that would, you know, you mentioned when you started, it said we've been working on it. Was this idea through the financial committee that you set up? Did they review this and decide that this was the best move?
The conversation did come up. The financial advisory committee was a committee that was actually put together to advise to the executive committee. So the decision for this was actually made with the executive committee. And as far as Lee, as far as just to let you know, we have already brought this up at 2 different district chairs meetings, and this has been brought to many of the districts already. This has not been just going on just since I sent out the handout. The handout that I sent out was merely just to get this information in your hands. I was a little too concerned about it not being in your hands prior to this meeting. That was the only reason for that handout. It was just given to me as soon as I had it and I was able to put it together, I sent it out. I just was worried about, we're not walking in the door, we're not handing out. So this conversation has been going on since actually before our board of directors meeting in September. So I brought it up in September, the board of directors and the president's message, and we brought it up at 2 different district chair meetings, and it's been in a lot of district meetings.
I attend a lot of the district meetings. I don't know what meetings you're speaking of that it's been in. You know, why not buy downtown?
Didn't even look at that, honestly. It just, I think if I recall some of the questions, Lee, at the beginning of this was based on the cost of downtown was not the same as the cost of what it would be if it was, you know, like in West Sacramento.
Yeah, but we're downsizing significantly, as you pointed out. And so, you know, why not entertain the idea of looking to purchase a location instead? You know, I mean, if you try to make the case that we're better off being perpetual tenants instead of owning, you know, our property, I have a difficult time, you know, agreeing with that, you know. And so, you know, why not take a look at actually making a purchase? You know, I don't think that every consideration has been appropriately vetted. This seems like something that should be, you know, kicked to a task force and actually have Zoom meetings so people who are interested in participating, you know, or having comment would do so. I mean, we've done stuff like way smaller than this, and had meetings at nauseum, you know, to go through all of the stuff, you know, and the details. And this just seems like, you know, to get the, you know, yeah, it's been mentioned twice at 2 meetings, and then I got some documents on it yesterday, and we're saying, hey, let's sell the building. And it just doesn't seem like we've done all of our due diligence on that front. Do you know if there are any legal issues with a non-for-profit actually having, you know, $500,000 or more investment money that's just generating income? I know there's some, in the past, I remember when I was on the, you know, the executive committee, there was some discussion about limitations as far as, you know, what a non-for-profit can even retain, you know, in investment type income portfolios. I don't know what those numbers are, but I don't know if you guys checked on that.
Chris, you want to answer this? Because there was some conversation in regards to this. I'm just trying to think of who
yeah, we had the question before, Lee, about, you know, the implications of selling the property, both the building and the property, and would that be the impacts in our what kind of taxes, the impacts of taxes, and of course, because we're a nonprofit 501c6, there would, you know, the good news is that there would be very little tax implications for us. That was according to prudence, based on some of the discussions we had. So I don't believe, is at least, you know, near as I can tell, and by the way, John Kramer or John, who's doing our stuff now, we'd be happy to run that issue by him, but I'm not aware that there's any tax implication in terms of numbers, so to speak, how much we can retain in a mutual. Is that what you're asking, mutual fund?
Yeah, I'm not talking specifically to taxes, but just how much of a portfolio or non-for-profit organizations allowed to maintain. I mean, that, I think if you have too much, it calls into question your nonprofit status with the IRS. I know there are rules on that. I don't know what the you know, I don't have them, you know, as far as specificity goes, but we're talking about $500,000 that would be sitting aside, you know, that we're talking about using for investment purposes, you know, and over a period of time that would grow as the gentleman mentioned earlier. But I think there are restrictions for nonprofits as far as what they can retain, you know, in income, you know, growth funds and things like that aren't, you know. So, I mean, it's just something else that I don't have the answer for that. I just know that there is some restriction, and it's probably something else that should be looked at, you know, before we are sitting there with $500,000 in there and then find out that, you know, that calls into question our non-for-profit status of the organization.
Dave, are you still on the call?
Yeah, I am. That's a good question and very valid. A lot of it comes down to what your association bylaws will allow. I manage money for other not-for-profits. And the reason we're looking at an advisory type program is because those are the programs that institutions use. It's not like buying you know, retail share classes of mutual funds where you have upfront sales charges, you have higher internal costs. The advisory programs that we use in these situations really are ideal for the type of group have, because there's an investment policy committee runs it. It has automatic rebalancing features. If any portion of a portfolio deviates from its investment by more than 4%, it automatically rebalances itself. So these are the types of programs that when I brought it to Tom and to Chris, this is the type of thing that is really good for your organization. As long as your bylaws don't prevent it. You know, there's a council for nonprofits.org. I'm actually on the site right now as you were talking, Lee. And it has to do with your investment policy. So if PCOC has an investment policy that allows you to take association assets and invest them in a moderate portfolio, then there should be no issues. But I'm not a tax guy. It sounds like Greg would know the tax implications better than I would.
Thank you, Dave.
Yeah, can I respond to just a couple things? I know Lee, I know it's not unusual for any of these associations, a matter of fact, to have investment funds, and a lot of them are a lot more significant than what we're talking about. And that even goes to the public, you know, friends on the public side, if it's League of Cities or counties. Also, I just learned that MPMA has a $3 million investment fund that they're managing. So I think
on that.
Pardon me?
I say you feel like we're probably fine on that.
I do think we're fine on that.
Yeah.
I mean, can I jump in on? I may jump on this. I think it's a question, Lee, worth doing the due diligence. We have a new accounting firm, and maybe also check with Dale Stern. I think it's certainly, I think the term is. Some nonprofits are set up so they have to spend all their money every year in retained earnings or whatever. I'm not sure exactly the term, excuse me, but I think it's a concept worth double checking on. We certainly don't want to be taken by surprise that somehow we would have to take and distribute all this back to our members after we sold the building or something like that. So I do think it is a point of due diligence that is worth investigating. I did want to comment on a couple other. So I think your point is very valid, worth investigating. But
I have one last point I wanted to bring up, and I'll be done. The other thing, that I wanted to mention is like I know that there are expenses to owning a building, but I lease 5 buildings, and what I find, I have some that are multi-unit, type settings. I have others that are standalone, but I pay the taxes that are incurred for all of that space. So that just gets rolled into what I owe. You know what I mean? That's just rolled into your lease. That's just, you're not paying, the taxes. You're not paying the maintenance. All of that stuff just gets charged back to you. And for me, it's frustrating because some of the maintenance, it seems like the landlord should be responsible for. And the way it works is they hand you the keys. And, for me, it seems like pretty much everything, that goes wrong, it's my liability to have fixed, and I think that's pretty commonplace for most general commercial lease agreements, so I don't think it's really a fair assessment, that we escape from those expenses. Now the downsizing makes them less, much less, and there wouldn't be landscaping stuff, but even in that setting, I pay a portion of the landscaping on several of my buildings, and it's allocated to me at a percentage of what my square footage is for the, for all the building that's owned. So those things, those costs you don't get away from. And, the lease or, the rent is just going to go up year after year after year after year. And I wouldn't be surprised if 10 years from now, we're looking at West Sacramento to try to move out of town and find something more affordable for our association. Thank you.
Hey, Tom, can I, there was one point I was going to make here regarding the very good question Lee had. When you have a nonprofit, number one duty that you have to the association is a fiduciary responsibility. And these investment accounts we're talking about or potentially talking about, they all meet the fiduciary standard. That's vital. And by meeting that fiduciary standard, that's where most nonprofits are able to invest those assets on an association's benefit or for their benefit. So they are fiduciary.
Thank you, Dave. Billy Gaither, you put in the notes, you had another question?
Yeah, I want to talk about Lee's comment regarding buying property downtown. From what I know of the downtown area, there's probably not any standalone buildings within 1 block of where we want to be. It's all typically commercial buildings. So if we buy something downtown, not only do we make the move downtown, but we become landlords also. And I think that's something we don't want to take on at this time.
It's possible to buy just a flat or, a unit inside of a multi-commercial building. Those are available everywhere.
Okay.
Somebody else had got onto the chat room and had a comment. Sorry about this. Ralph? No, Ralph, yours was about dues. Steve Scoville.
Yeah, I had that comment about What did I write there? That was a little while ago.
Do our bylaws?
Yeah, do our current bylaws allow this to happen?
Yeah, we actually reviewed the bylaws to ensure that it did.
All right, perfect.
Any further questions?
Yeah, I got, hey, Tom.
Chris?
Yeah, quick. I just want to add a question sent to me actually on my text. What happens if we list the building and it is slow to sell or we get significantly less?
Oh, I could answer that. We're not going to sell for less.
Yeah.
You know, the goal here is not to say, hey, I just want to sell the building. The objective is to, and this is a consideration that we're taking, is that we're looking at the future for PCOC. And the future is to get us closer to the capital, to work on our relationships. Losing AB 1788 was a big wake-up call for us, even though we knew it was a train coming down the track. But but we're looking at potentially preemption. Our relationships are very important. This is why this is one of the main reasons we get together as an association. We fight for our industry, and that is just moving towards the fight. To sell the building for less than what we believe it's worth has no advantage to us at all. My goal is to not put us into a spot where we're at a financial disadvantage. Any further questions?
I guess
Tom, this is Eric.
I have one
Hey,
more
Eric.
comment as well, is that,
go ahead.
we saw a lot of the activists on the propositions go after Proposition 13, and I think it was actually maybe 15 where there was the potential to reassess commercial assessments for property taxes. So, I mean, we could be vulnerable if this got revisited again, if we're a property owner. But in addition to that, most of the leases downtown would be triple net. So we could be also subject to, huge increases on lease rates as well. So, I think it's something that it's not imminent that that's going to happen, but I think we have to really take everything into consideration prior to. So, I'm an affiliate member, so I think I've said enough about it, but I just want to make sure that the association is not doing something because of COVID. It's this 2020 has forced a lot of people into doing things that are making decisions they didn't really have to make. And I think that maybe the window to get out of this thing in 6 months or so might give us a different evaluation when you have revenue coming in again. So thank you for allowing me to talk.
Thank you, John.
Tom, this is Eric. This is Eric Paulson. I just had just kind of a thought and observation. Obviously, it's 35 plus years since we moved from LA to West Sacramento, and West Sacramento made sense at the time, and now we're thinking downtown makes more sense. But a comment that I heard for many years was some regret in selling our Los Angeles property. When we sold it, we actually carried the note. And so we actually had income for a long period, and we appreciated the income. But I remember at the board meetings, the executive committee looking at that, and Harvey looking at that, and kind of remarking that, wow, if we'd hung on to that, we're getting this relatively small check each month with some nice income, better than we would have made, if we had the money in the bank. But if we kept that property and leased it or rented it, just the increase in that value, just an observation which took place. I share a lot of the same concerns Lee has, and I'll admit that there's also some emotional attachment that this is, the association's real property, and so I just think we really need to look at it very closely. It may be the right choice, but I also share some concern about jumping into it. Just we really think about it hard.
Thank you, Eric. And there's a few more comments came in. I think Lee has a good point. This is from Jackie Clark. I feel like a radio host. Well, we have a caller in. Jackie Clark says, I think Lee has a good point that we should look at purchasing closer just to see if it's available. And then Ralph asked, Tom, how much have we been spending on upkeep and maintenance on the existing building? A lot, question mark. I mean, the building is not getting any younger. Is this also a concern? So, so as far as building, the maintenance and that I'm fortunate to head over the past few years has been very costly. I mean, we've put on a new roof, we put on, we put in new equipment, heating there. And those are the big major ones, but it's still an older building, and, and I'm not really, I really can't project exactly what that would look like in the future. I just know from my experience and from what we've done so far, there's still a lot more work to be done in that building. Somebody else had another question. Greg, did you have another point to make?
Oh, I think so. I was somewhat responding to Lee Whitmore's comments, and then also, I guess, maybe share my own thinking on this. But Lee mentioned that we just had the notice from your package that came out this week, but I just was double checking myself. I went back to the minutes from the September board meeting, and one of the bullet items here is discuss possibly selling office and moving downtown to be closer to the Capitol. So it was certainly brought up and recorded in the minutes that it was brought up 3 months ago. So it has had time to be vetted and make its way through the membership in terms of thinking it over. Then as far as downtown, we made a point, there may be a condo type building downtown, but I think when you move downtown, someone said you're going to have a hard time finding a standalone building in the neighborhood we want. And it's a little bit like being an attorney that needs to be downtown near the courthouse. We're moving downtown to be near DPR and legislators, and chances are we're going to be in some big high rise, and the ability to buy downtown probably doesn't exist. I may be wrong. There may be a condo. I just don't imagine us being in a building, a standalone building in the neighborhood that we want to be in. My sense is it's going to be a high rise. I think that this then now, just on my own, to share my thinking, my own perspective on this, I think this came up because of COVID and because of the fears and uncertainty around the loss of event revenue and how are we going to make ends meet. And we even talked about borrowing on the building, which I think might have actually been my idea. I'm glad we have not borrowed on the building. I think that would have been a mistake. I learned a lot from that. My recommendation, it was a poor choice. The reality is, I think that we're solvent. I don't think we have to do this as a financial strategy. And so then I kind of took my foot off the gas. Well, why in the world are we selling the building if we have a very good chance? I mean, I believe that we are going to be just fine. Fine might be the wrong word, but we're not going to need to sell the building to continue to exist as an entity, organization. And it became an issue to me of what I will call the effectiveness of our EVP, which is right now Chris, but the effectiveness of our EVP and the effectiveness of our association. I somehow, and I don't live and work in Sacramento, but I just think being downtown and close to things where you bump into people at Starbucks or take them to lunch quite easily or have people over to the office. These are the themes that have been coming up over and over again with Chris, with Tom, maybe even Jim Steed, others who have that experience up there. And somehow that resonates with me. I have to admit, I'm taking a little bit on trust, but it does resonate. And I think the effectiveness, this is an issue of yes, it is a financial play. There's no question about it. And I think we have to be very careful as an association to sequester this money and sequester it properly. I just feel that for me, it switched from a financial play, and we can't ignore the finances that are involved with it, but I suppose to when I say play, the primary motivation being financial to the primary motivation being effectiveness. And then also Billy's mentioned it. I think the ladies mentioned it. It's a big building. There's a lot of unutilized space in there, and unutilized space is expensive. And downtown, I think would just be more efficient, more poised to work downtown. It was a great deal of ambivalence that I approached this thing. I have to admit, I probably when it was originally brought up, a little bit like fingers on a chalkboard. I don't want to sell my home. And I just feel very attached to it, and this is mine. And yet I think from all that I've listened to, I've tipped over and feel in favor of it. And particularly if we take care of the money that we get from it. I hope that there's no vision in terms of spending money. We really do need to look at that issue. We don't want to be caught by surprise after it's sold. So we need to vet that out. But I've come to be in favor of it. I have to admit that I was against it, and it's not easy. There's a lot of ambivalence in it. A lot of pride in that building, a lot of pride when our association did to buy that. Eric mentioned, Harvey and others feeling sad that they sold it. I don't know. I manage real estate myself as a trustee for family trusts, and there's managing real estate is a pain in the ass. Just FYI. I mean, I'm busy running a business. That's hard too, but there's always headaches. There's always broken toilets and water heaters, and it's not a lot of fun being a landlord. But so I would not be in favor of PCOC becoming a landlord. We would saddle the EVP and the staff with just becoming property managers. I don't think that makes a lot of sense. So if we are going to move, I'm in favor of selling it. If we're going to stay put, then we need to freshen it up a bit. But anyway.
There's a lot of comments. Thank you, Greg. There's a lot of comments asking in regards to leasing a building in Sacramento versus to buying a building. I just want to add that if we were to buy a building, then it would not resolve the issue of the emergency fund. So I just want to put that out there as well. So the next step, right? Are there any further comments?
Tom, if we decided to purchase something, couldn't we use part of the sale of the original building to put away for emergency fund and use the other portion of the building to put towards the new building, and then just have a lease or not a lease, but a mortgage for a certain period of time? Couldn't we pull money out for an emergency fund?
Of course we could, but we would end up being back in the spot where we're making a payment on the emergency fund.
Okay.
But it definitely would be an option. So right now we have a motion on the floor. Karen, do you want to repeat that motion?
Unmute myself. To look for a location closer to the Capitol to lease and to sell our existing building. The first was by Mary Hernandez and the second was by Billy.
Okay. We've already gone through the, Sarah, you're on?
Yep. So I'm going to be putting a link in the chat. It is for voting purposes. Just go ahead and click on the link and say yes or no to motion 1. Yes if you agree, nay if you do not agree, and then I'll look at the tallies and whatnot on the back end of that, and I can let you know the results.
Can you repeat that? Because I'm not quite sure I'm following how to vote.
Yes, there's a link that's been put into the chat. If you take a look at it, you can fill out everything. You just put your name on it and that you're a voting member, and that you're voting yay or nay on the motion.
And real quick, Mary,
Tom, have we followed, I don't know who our parliamentarian is right now, but have we followed Robert's Rules of Order? We have a motion and a second. We open it up for discussion. Have we called for the vote? Have we followed the appropriate protocols?
Yes, because the next step would be to call for the vote, correct?
Yes, Greg.
Do you guys see on the screen that I have? This is what the ballot looks like here.
Seems like when I hit submit,
I'm not able to get to the link, doesn't seem to be working.
Wait a second. Are we voting on motion 1, the dues restructure, or motion 2, the relocating of the office to Sacramento?
the motion on the floor is for the office in Sacramento.
So real quick, did I not update it?
So it says motion 1 on the link.
Okay, give me a second. Give me a second. I must have done the wrong one. So give me 1 second.
I have a question here, if I may speak.
Hey, Janet.
Hi, are we, when it comes to the building, are we saying either yes or no, sell or don't sell? Talking about possibly doing more investigating before we make that decision?
Do you want to repeat the motion on the floor, Karen?
The motion as presented, yes.
Okay, to look for a location closer to the Capitol to lease and to sell our existing building. And the first was by Mary, the second was by Billy.
It just seems like, to me, there's been enough people questioning it that it seems like we have more homework to do than just we're ready to say yes or no today. That's Janet's opinion.
Then we would need to vote it down.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so guys, I think if you try that second link, I think I updated it. Just maybe refresh your page. I think it's the same link, just updated the question.
Okay, if I already voted before, does it make a difference on and vote again?
Yes, you can only vote one time. This is for this particular one. There's going to be another
87 people on the call, and there's 400.
So you eliminated the first one, so you have to vote again.
Right. So just we're voting on motion 2.
So Ralph, the one that you're looking at is probably the one. Try refreshing your page because I think I got rid of that. All it says now is just motion 1, yay or nay.
Tom?
Yeah.
While that gets resolved, I guess I'll just formalize my opposition to this not going in front of the General Association membership vote by I think, I don't know what the bylaws are on matters like this, but I just would say point of order, I'd just call for point of order. But I think that this is a matter that should be brought before the General Association instead of at a board of directors meeting. I know we're going to proceed anyhow, but I just wanted to go through that formal point of order opposition of this being done here.
Okay. Just for the record, we did look at the bylaws to see if this would be like for the annual. So. Now I have a question. And I apologize. Hang on, I'm getting all kinds of stuff up here.
Tom, Chris, are people voting now? I just want to make sure people voting now. Okay.
Yes.
Yes, we've got 50 people that have voted so far.
Okay.
Is there, I have a point of order question as well. Because I don't want to do this wrong. My win today is not to put something through. My win is to bring something to the board and have you guys vote on it, and for us as an association to do the right thing. Are we giving this an opportunity to revise? Can can there be another motion to revise this in any way, shape, or form?
It has to be shot down first, and there really shouldn't be any more discussion after it was up for the vote.
Correct. Let's do the vote. Then if someone wants to make another motion, we can do that.
Okay. Thank you.
comes from years of being with Cliff in my district.
Yeah. Yeah, we missed that guy.
Sarah, can you see the totals right now?
Yep, we have 58 responses, 48.3% yay, 51.7 nay.
It's not letting me send in. Oh, because I didn't put my email address.
So Tom, this is Billy Gaither here. Looking at the Constitution and bylaws, there is a section that refers to the disposal of assets.
Yeah.
And there is nothing in there that addresses the building. It's all monetary assets.
Correct.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it doesn't preclude us from doing it, Billy. I guess that's what you're saying, yeah.
Again, we really shouldn't have any discussion until the vote's over.
Correct. He just asked the question. So yeah, I agree with you.
Thank you, Christine, for checking everybody. That was awesome.
Basically, what I'm saying is let's get on with this.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sergeant of Earn, giddy up. I love it.
She's been hanging around Cliff too long.
Are you still receiving
Has
votes,
everyone
Sarah?
voted?
Yes, I've got
Yes, everyone
64
voted.
now. So real quick, I just want to clarify this. So the email that was sent out with Tom's motions and all the documents you guys received, that said for motion 1 was going to be the dues restructure and motion 2 was what we're talking about right now. So I want there to be some clarity there that what we're dealing with now, we kind of did it a little backwards. So formally in this meeting, motion 1 is talking about the building situation. We will then go on to the dues restructure, and that will now be considered motion 2. So I just wanted to make that clear. If somebody's looking at the email with the attachments that Tom sent out, just know that right now what we're talking about is the building, which in the email was noted as motion 2, but in this meeting, because it was the first to be brought up, it is considered motion 1.
Has everybody voted?
So right now we have 64 responses, and let me just check to see. Looks like we have, how many people in here? 86. So
Yeah, but not, there's affiliates, that they can't vote, so.
correct. But
Yeah.
I just wanted to give a little bit more time. We have 65 responses. Also, Mary was not able to vote, and she has sent me her response. So I'm going to take that into account.
Long meeting so far, guys. I'm sorry. Right after this, we will take a 5-minute restroom break before we get into the next discussion.
Some of us already did that, Tom.
I know. You should have had your microphone off.
Oh, goodness. Okay, Mary, just so that you are aware, I have taken care of your vote and it is included. So that is all good now.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
We should be there by now.
Yes, I believe so. I mean, I haven't seen any activity on this in quite some time. So, okay. So 48.5% in favor and 51.5% not in favor.
Shot down. Very good. It's exactly, like I said, I have no problem. At this point, can we make an adjusted motion on it? To include looking at
It have officially be a new motion.
be a new motion to have the executive committee to further due diligence and report back in the spring with more information in regards to potentially buying another building in Sacramento, and to bring that to a motion.
Do we need
Does
a
that
motion
have to
for
be
that?
a motion, or?
Tom, I don't think that has to be a motion at all. As an executive committee, it's your duties to go out and search things and bring it back to the board of directors.
Perfect.
I would just do it that way, and then when you guys come up with anything, bring it up.
Okay. So
I have a question. Why should the executive committee, Tom, we should just move on. Why waste our time? We've heard from the membership. Why continue to push this piece of spaghetti uphill?
First off, I don't think the vote was against ever doing anything there. The vote was no to what was currently put out there. If something, you guys you guys have done a lot of research so far, and I don't think you should throw that out the window. I think you should still do your due diligence. You can look at all those options along with the current options, and then come up with an idea between or put together a task force to continue doing it. But I don't think I think throwing all the work you've done in the trash can at this point is stupid too.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Agreed.
I couldn't agree more, Joe. And Lee had some very good points about the task force and exploring the other options. And I think that's essentially what we should be looking at, is forming a group that's going to do this and come up with a deeper view into this.
Okay. So with that said, my commitment to the association will be to continue on this pursuit. I'll take things in consideration as far as doing the research in regards to what it would be if we were to sell the building and buy another building, all this, and we'll answer all the questions brought up earlier today. And I will put together a task force. Then that way, more minds together. We'll put in some fresh people with fresh ideas, and I'll bring it back to a discussion in the spring. Okay.
And
so just to move on.
Email questions.
Oh, what's that?
Maybe they can email their questions directly that they want.
Yes. Email me any concerns or questions. And also may I ask that if you're interested in joining, this committee, go ahead and let me know. That would be awesome. I'd like to just take a 5-minute break.
Tom?
Yeah.
One other just recommendation that I would make.
I want that 5-minute break so badly.
That the task force, be announced, and since in this world of Zoom, allow other members, even if they're not on the task force, to be able to be participants, and send that out not just to the board of directors, but out to all of our general association members. So anybody that wants to participate, we got 25% that never come to nothing, so it'd be good, to invite them if they want to get on the Zoom meeting to join as well. Thank you.
That's a good idea. We'll do. Okay. Can we
real quick? I know you need to take that break, but I just want to Lee's point, just as a clarification, the board of directors notification and meeting links and times and everything was sent out to the membership at the entire membership. So it wasn't just sent to the board of directors, it was literally sent to everyone. So everyone did have the information to join today.
The next, returning back to new business, I'd like to invite Mike McKenzie.
Obviously, you guys received Tom's communication that had all of the numbers that we're going to be discussing today. Specifically, this is obviously around membership dues. And I got to tell you two things before I really get deep into this. It will not take as long as the last section. That's a promise that I have to you. And I wanted to thank Sarah, Chris, and the PCOC team. I did receive my president's ring, so thank you. I love it. I really appreciate it. And I'm super excited about it. So just putting it out there. Anyway, so moving on. So in the past 4 years, we've really taken a deep look at the current due structure and where it stands, and we've had, I mean, more discussions than are even possible. And so at the end of the day, last year we were moving down the path of a new due structure. And in my presidency, we decided to halt that progression because of COVID. So it was, I think we were close to getting it voted in because I had visited a lot of districts and done the same presentation over and over and over again, as well as district chairs. I stood in front of the room back in December last year when we were in Palm Springs and presented a different set of information. Heard from, I remember Lee speaking up, and Joe Gatto and John Sansone and several others talk. So we took their advice and put this new program together. And that was back December last year, moving into January, February, March. So in my my January, February visits, I was rolling this out along with district chair calls and everything. And then we decided to suppress it because of COVID. So that's kind of brings us to today. Tom asked me to share this program with everybody and then essentially seek a vote after discussion. So does everybody have the attachment? Or Sarah, since you're back on, is there any way you can share my slides?
I do have the dues restructure up right here. Do you guys see that?
Oh, I don't see it. That's cool. Oh, check. All right, so go back one.
I don't have slides. This is what I was given.
Okay, well, I'll just speak to this. All right, so on the left side, you've got your current dues structure. In the center is the proposed dues structure that we are discussing. Now, a couple of footnotes on this. The 301 to 350 category has only 3 companies, and that's because like some of the big guys, including Terminex, including Rentokil, I don't know the number of employees they have, so I just made the assumption like it's going to be over 300, but I put them in at 300. So this is a lighter view, if that makes sense. Everything else, 1 through 300, is where we currently fall as companies, okay? The tanned area that says difference is what the dollar amount difference would be from the current due structure to the proposed due structure by company. And that's not per company, but by the company size. So when you get into the number of employees, I will say this, the new version, this is not the newest version, the only adjustment that was made is the category 5 to 6, 6 to 8 is actually 7 to 8. So I'll just put that disclaimer in. You guys give me a thumbs up if you see what I'm talking about. So, because right now it says 5 to 6, 6 to 8. It's now 5 to 6, 7 to 8. That's the only change on the due structure that I've put on for the newest version, I guess you'd say. So that being said, if you really look at the numbers, when you hit the categories, like say 11 to 20, the old due structure is 688, and you'll see that the new one is 875 at 11 to 15 people. So that's $187 difference for that company. The 21 to 50 category on the old structure at 21, it's only $132 difference. And when you really think about the size of companies, right? If you have 21 employees, which a fair amount of the people out there, I mean, 13 companies have. If you look at the difference between a 21-person company and a 50-person company, that can be relatively significant, right? I mean, that's a very significant difference, yet we were charging them an identical amount. And then the craziest part is as you get to the large guys, like you get to a Orkin or a Clark, you're just paying $64.19, and that's it, straight up. Like, I don't care if you've got 3,000 employees, 1,000 employees, whatever it is, $64.19 fits your needs. And so Mike Buller, myself, and several others over the years have worked on this, including the executive committee that was on my team, and before that. And we've gone through this and really come up with what we believe is a nominal increase for the smaller size companies, and it grows as you grow. So it's a scalable. And Lee's point back a little while back, last year was, well, not every company's created equal, meaning fumigators have different revenue sets than say a pest control company, than a termite company. So that being said, we readjusted because we were doing it by revenues prior to this. And so, and it was kind of matching like the MPMA style. So we went away from the revenue base and we went to the employee base size. Okay. So before I move anywhere forward, does anybody have questions about what I've talked about thus far? Awesome. All right. So with that being said, as you get to the larger companies, it does grow. And Adam Holt, I see what you're saying. Your company difference is almost $5,000. I don't know exactly what category you'd be in, but it's probably close to the 600 employee. And yes.
I don't think that's right. I think I read the wrong column. I'm sorry. Okay. I'm reading the white column versus the dues amount.
Okay. Roger that.
My bad. Thank you.
Yeah. The sum of dues is and just for everybody's knowledge, the sum of dues would be 146 companies on 1 to 2 line. 146 companies times 375 would be 54,750. Okay, that's all that is. So that's not your dues. If you're a one-person company, you got to give us $54,000. Let's do this. We're going to make some money, right? Forget the nonprofit status. It's about making money here. So what this really, the attempt behind all of this, quite honestly, was to rebalance our dues structure and make it sustainable for 5, 10, not even 5, 10, 10, 20, 30 years. Because when this was written years and years ago, the actual number of employee count, I believe that there wasn't a lot of thought of like, man, there's only like 2 companies above 300 employees at that moment in time. And we've never really scaled it and adjusted. The cool thing about this proposed structure is, let's say you go into a time like we were in March, April, and maybe for some of us, you're still in it. If you had 35 employees and it scales back due to a COVID, a pandemic, or whatever, and now you're at 28 employees, the dues number will scale back with you. It won't scale forward. It's not like once you hit a threshold, you hit a threshold. You actually tell us, this is what my threshold is, and basically that's what you're going to pay. Now, there's some checks and balances on this, but the reality is it scales with your company. And obviously, Sarah, if you could scroll down a little bit. So this thing scales all the way up to 5,000 companies. And then we put a caveat in here. If you're a 5,000 plus company, it'll be basically priced upon request. And the reason for that was, I'll just take Rollins as an example because, we've got multiple brands and I'll just give Clark and Orkin together, right? We're going to go over that 5,000 number like in a heartbeat if we came together and said, we're going to pay one set of dues for everybody. Okay. So if they decided to do that, which I don't see that happening, but if they decided to do that, this would allow for PCOC to revisit that and say, okay, this is what it would mean to us. And this is the dollar amount you would have to pay. So it scales all the way up to 5,000 employees. And then upon request, we can talk about that. And the executive team, Chris and the president, and I'm sure Karen and everybody would be involved in that. So that being stated, it would lift our dues as a whole to the tune of roughly like $80,000 to $90,000 at the end of the day. Okay, at the end of the year, I guess you'd say. So that being stated, it would make us more sustainable in an area like this, so we're not always looking for handouts and we're not always asking for money. This would basically pay the bills, is what it gets down to for an entire year. And then events and all of the other things that we've been attempting to do will ultimately be able to be funded at this point. So that being said, what questions do you guys have about this proposed due structure?
Hey, Mike, I'm guessing this is still based on the honor system on the number of employees, correct?
Did anybody catch that? I couldn't hear him.
His question is it based on the honor system, the number of employees?
Yeah, so it's the same as it's always been, which is basically the honor system. Now, obviously, if you tell us 10 employees and you're on the top 500 or top 100 companies, we're probably going to question you a little bit. But it is truly based on the honor system.
I always check the board. If there's like a question, I'll look at the board site too. I know that's not always correct. It's not always up to date, but I always look there. So
there you go. So that's your check and balance. Great question, Bill.
And this is.
How do we know that the
Excuse me.
Sorry. How do we know that the larger companies are going to go for this and stay in? What's the benefit that they get from PCOC? I feel like we get more of a benefit from them than they get from us.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that was something that we have absolutely vetted with the large companies and worked with them and talked to them. And quite honestly, this structure is very different from what it was before. It was a lot richer before on the high end. So the big companies were paying a fair amount, well, quite a bit more, to be honest with you. And at the end of the day, we've ran it past several different companies and their key individuals, and basically had a bunch of questions. And at the end of the day, most of them have agreed, like, hey, this is fine. We can move forward. So that's kind of where we stand. So Cindy, that's a great question. Because obviously we don't want to lose any of the large companies. We want them in the association because they bring a lot to the table as well.
Hey, Mike.
And then what is the benefit that they're getting? They have 5,000 employees, but they only have 3 coming to meetings. I don't feel like, I don't understand what the benefit is.
Yeah, and that's going to be because I work for Orkin, and so that's going to be on an individual basis per the company, right? So like Clark has and Rentokil has a lot more people that attend on a regular than some of Orkin. But a lot of the bigger companies have a lot of people at the local district level, like Terminix has a lot of local district people, but maybe they don't attend the bigger meetings. So it means something different to every big company. Not to mention the access to the CEUs and the training and all of the different pieces that I know a lot of them do take advantage of.
The larger companies have even more to lose if we're not successful in conducting our regulatory and legislative advocacy.
Yeah.
They can lose their businesses. So they got way more skin in the game, regardless of participatory levels within the association. It's paramount to them that our association is successful at what it does.
Yeah.
Imagine just imagine for an instance, if you have your business in every single county within the state of California, and then here comes preemption. Holy cow, that's a nightmare. So Terminix, Rentokil, Clark, Orkin have all stated, like how important it is, to be part of this association.
Yep.
Real quick, Mike, I just wanted to ask a question because I don't know that it was talked about. Are we completely getting rid of the supplementals? Because that would also kind of, a lot of those larger companies do pay supplemental fees too. So when we're switching over to these new regular dues.
Great question. Great question. And the way that came across, and I don't remember who it was, Lee or whomever, at the last meeting in December. We actually hit that one because that was my original thought process, was to do away with supplementals. And if you look at the bylaws, a supplemental member is a voting rights position. It's a voting privilege, right? And so like, let's say, for instance, and I'm just going to give you like an idea, and I don't think this would ever happen, but let's say myself working for Orkin, I decided I wanted to sway the vote today on the building. I could have had 300 people if you did not have to be a voting member, if you were just part of a bigger company, and you were now a member with voting privileges. I could have swayed the vote today just by putting 100 people on this call and totally dominated the vote. Now, is that really going to happen? Probably not. But in all fairness, it was brought to my attention that that's a voting member and that's a privilege. And so you should pay for that as a supplemental member. And that's where you pick and choose who your active members are, right? So it's one thing for the company to be a member, but the supplemental members are the people in your company that are going to be active, attend districts, attend meetings. And so that's the point of the supplemental member. And I think it's a valid position. So thanks for asking that question, Sarah. Larry, you had something? I don't want to miss you, and I know you're chewing, so I'll give you a sec.
Yeah, hey, thanks very much, Mike. I was just curious, is that the total number of employees that you have in the state of California?
Yes, yeah, because obviously Orkin is not paying for every person across the country for just California. It's just California. That's a good question.
Okay, that was my concern, because we only have about 30 people in the state of California, but we have several hundred people in the company, you know, all total.
Yeah, yeah, and so you would pay for the people that work in work in California.
Okay, thank you very much for that clarification.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Mike, I just
Unless, of course, Larry, you want to buy a new building, then you can pay for every employee at Sprague, okay?
There you go. Hey, Bill, we're not hearing you at all. I know you were talking, but I couldn't hear you.
Hey, Billy, I think maybe he took his earbuds out.
Yeah, we can't hear him.
I unplugged them. Your screenshot is taking away my volume.
Mike, did you get that one?
I think he said
Hey, Bill, do you
our
want to go ahead
screenshot is taking away his volume.
Hey, Bill.
Oh.
Do you want to go ahead and text me your question and I'll ask it for you?
Okay.
All right. Any other questions before we go to Billy's question?
At this point, did you want to call for a motion?
Well, let's hear Billy's question first.
I'm very busy with motions today.
You are doing fantastic.
Wow.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
On my day off.
This is Chuck Tyndall with Wernicke Western.
Hey.
I'm kind of new to what y'all are doing here, and I had spoken yesterday to Chris about the supplemental. Is there anything other than voting rights that the supplemental individual memberships bring to the table for a large company or whoever's paying for the supplemental insurance? I mean, do you have to be a supplement to attend meetings or?
Yeah, so within the bylaws, I don't want to read the whole thing, so I'm going to just kind of look for highlighted pieces. It defines what a supplemental member is. So essentially, they're members of the district, so like whichever district of their choosing, right? In which they shall be a member. Let's see. They have full voting privileges at the district level, and they are in good standing. So it's not just district level, or it's basically at the district level. So they would be members at the district level.
And they also get the emails too. They're privy to all the emails. So in regards to everything that Sarah sends out. So that's the other.
So just as an example, I'm a supplemental member for my company because my dad owns the business. So currently he is our member and I'm a supplemental member, so I can hold a position at the district level as well as be a director and be involved in the state level committees as well.
Thanks, Jackie.
Yep, correct.
Chuck, does that help?
Yes, it does. Appreciate it. Now, I would like to just also reaffirm what you said about large companies and the importance of PCOC as well as every other state association. And it's boots on the ground where, when we have legislation that's going to adversely affect our business.
Thank you, Chuck. Appreciate that. Tom, did you get Bill's question? Looks like Tom's on the conference call.
Sorry, I just had to unmute myself. He didn't have a question, he had a comment. And he just wanted to make a comment that speaking as a supplemental that he finds, as well as some other people that he knows within this association, that there's a lot of benefits that come to being a supplemental.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
I have a question on the, on the affiliate member, supplemental retiree, on the proposed, there's no number, so that means they're not changing.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Under the current, for supplemental members, affiliate members, retirees, under the proposed column on the far right, there is.
It's a $10 change.
$10.
So it went from, it says $85. I don't know if it says it on the screen that Sarah has, but it's $85 versus $75.
Okay.
So it's a $10 change.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
Good.
Any other comments, questions, thoughts, snide remarks?
Hey, Mike.
Todd Vadine, Terminix.
Hey, Todd.
I'm all for increasing dues. It just seems like a pretty hefty increase. I saw that Adam Holt had said that a little bit earlier, so I just kind of want to put that out there. Seems more than 3 times, at least for the size of our company. But again, I don't speak on behalf of the board of directors, the shareholders, and I also realize the importance of large companies, but I just kind of wanted to say that. Don't know what they're going to say.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
I'll just ask openly. Orkin, Clark, Reddick-Hill, is there feedback? Yes, let's go with it, or
yeah,
I'm just curious.
There is, absolutely there is.
Okay.
So, and that was, again, back to, that was a huge concern of ours. So that was one of the first places we went, was to talk to the big guys and make sure they were okay with it. And so the jumps that you're seeing, in other words, like, a couple $1,000, $3,000, they were bigger before. And we actually brought it back down to where it's palatable for the big guys based on their input. So yeah, absolutely. We talked about that and vetted it.
Mike, who'd you talk to at Terminex? And
Chris?
Yeah, we've
I
had
talked to Terminex. Sorry.
Well, it's been changed. The last time I ran this by Mac, and it was during Mike's tenure as president. So, and one of the things that just so everyone understands too, one of the things that I just sort of call around in different associations, people like Florida, people like Texas, I just want to get a sense for what sort of some of our members, particularly the big guys, are paying in different locations. And I still happen to believe they were paying $6,200. And this is sort of Todd, it's not only to you, but I had, with Orkin, Clark, and Reddick-Hill is, this is a pretty good deal in California, because candidly, a lot of them don't have the same problems we have in this state. A lot of them are facing, they don't have the same uphill challenges they do in California. And so I think when you look, when you look at the $6,200 level, I think that's been a sweet deal for a long time. And I think folks recognize that too.
Thanks, Chris.
Yeah, it's all fair. I just wanted to get some dialogue out there. Thank you.
Thanks, Todd. Appreciate that. Any other questions?
Are we doing the discussion and then we're going to have a motion and more discussion? How's that?
Pretty much. Yeah, I was going to, right when we're done with this, I was going to ask for a motion and then open up discussion again and then go on from there.
Okay. I would just make this broken record time, right? So been in the association for 20 plus years. We've had a couple of dues increases over that period of time. They have always been voted on at our annual membership meeting. You know, that's just, you know, I don't know what's in, I'm not I looked in the bylaws. It doesn't seem like it says jack about it, right? But I mean, that's just been a general practice when we do this sort of stuff, that gets deferred to the annual meeting, you know, and that's where it's covered. The other thing is, I know, Mike, I know you've done a lot of work on this, but, you know, typically this is something like, you know, that has been done by task force with open transparency and engage other members, you know, if they want to participate in it. I remember the last time Greg worked on it for 1.5 years. That's when we brought in the MPMA membership, and he had all sorts of dialogue about it. You know, I agree that, you know, I think dues could easily go up, but how you divvy that up or how you split that out, you know, it's, there can be differences of opinions, you know. So I just wanted to bring up those 2 points. I am in support of the dues going up. I do see the association needs additional revenue. I think some of the categories could be cumbersome. You know, like if you look at 50 people, you're going from 943 to 1,600. You know, that's a pretty sizable increase for, you know, a company that's in that range, 46 to 50. You'd mentioned that.
Yeah.
And then the markup for 301 to 350 people, like Todd alluded to, you know, but I mean, we look at that and that's a you know, a 20% increase or 18% or something, you know, and so it seems like there's some dialogue that can be had about that. But regardless, I just wanted to say, you know, no matter what happens, you know, in my opinion, it should have been brought up, you know, maybe it's discussed now and then announced and voted on. Maybe it can be done by a special meeting so it can go into effect and, you know, for the billing in July, you know, but it's something, I mean, this should be sent out to all of our members, you know, to provide them an opportunity to weigh in and move forward then.
Yeah, and I really appreciate what you're bringing forward, because that is, I mean, we started down this path like 3.5, 4 years ago. And there was a committee that was working on this. Mike and I were kind of the main drivers, Bullard. And then it continued to roll and roll. And I've proposed this or put this in front of the BOD, I think on 2 different occasions. And this, I think, is my 3rd time doing it. And then several times a district. So, but I agree with you. I mean, I know I hear what you're saying.
Hey, Mike, this is Mike Bullard. In the Constitution and bylaws, it does dictate that the board of directors shall fix the annual dues for all categories of membership. So it's this body's obligation to set that.
Right on. I wonder why it was done at the annual meetings in the past. That's always
actually customary to do that.
Yeah.
Can I speak in here for Billy Gaither, because his microphone is down?
Yeah.
He sent me a message. He says, we voted on dues increase before in March in order to facilitate billing with the increase to be within the year, like, you know, like Lee said earlier.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Lee.
The other comment, you know, we've really upped our game when we got Chuck Tyndall and Larry Treelevin attending our meetings. I just wanted to kind of point that out.
I agree.
Raise the dues even more, you know, since we got those guys joining us now.
Yeah.
I agree.
Mike, I'd like to make a motion that we move to adopt the dues as presented today.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Is there any, or will someone second the motion made by Mike Bullard?
I will second it. This is Larry.
Thank you, Larry. Okay, so now we'll open, we've had a lot of discussion. Is there any other discussion or any discussion that anybody wants to put in?
I would like to say something if I could, Steve Scoville. When I when I saw this, I saw that the 5 and 6 and 6 and 8. I assume that 6 and 8 is 7 and 8, and I sent that to Tom. So that's just a little clerical error there. I did have a little bit of concern because our company's going up $300, which is okay. But there was a little bit of differences in between, the different ranges, and I didn't know why, there, like some of the ranges they went up like $200, and then the next one went down like to $75.
Yep. And I can clarify that, but I'm sorry. Go ahead and finish your question, and then I'll clarify.
No, I just didn't know why that happened that way. Why didn't it just steadily just increase the same number of dollars?
Yeah. So real simple. So as you look at the ranges from before, the 6 to 10, 11 to 20, 21 to 50, they're pretty large ranges. And the debarkation point of each range, it's kind of what I was saying in the original presentation piece. So if you look at like 11 to 20, that's 9 people, right? And now it's 11 to 15. And so to get that number closer to the 21 to 50 mark, I have to decrease the amount of lift on some of them. So you'll see as there's a bunch of new categories between. So like on the 21 to 299, it's a very standardized lift. So say it's like, and I don't know the exact number, but it's 150, 150, 150. Then it jumps to 250, 250, 250, because there's many more thresholds between. So it was really to try and level out those next debarkation points. And that's really what it came from. So hopefully that answers your question.
Well, if this is a standard rate, people's companies alternate, change every year or every 2 years with employees. So it seemed like having the number of, companies that are at that spot now wouldn't matter what it would be in the future to me.
And it doesn't. Has nothing to do with it at all. The number of companies does not play into it at all.
Okay, I was just making the comment.
Yep. Thank you. All right, any other discussion points? So Billy just posted, I think he likes this. Give me a yes or a no on it. He wants to point out that the small companies, 1 and 2, 3 and 4, the dues increase looks to be very affordable. So thank you for that, Bill. Any other discussion? All right. Hearing none. Sarah, can you release the craziness known as the, whatever the heck that thing's known as, for the vote?
You mean?
So to clarify, Karen, can you please reread the motion on the floor?
Yeah, let me just swallow my potato chips. Was to move to adopt the dues as presented today. First by Mike Bullard, second by Larry Trelevin.
Thank you.
Okay, so that should be motion number 2, referenced at BOD, and in the email from Tom, that was listed as motion number 1.
I voted. Oh my God, sorry.
So, Mike, just to clarify, are we voting right now, or how are we doing this? Because I'm on the road. I'm a little bit difficult. This is Fred. I'll vote for both. How's that? Can you take it that way?
Okay,
Yeah,
really
vote,
quick, Fred Rozo, just for clarification, what are you voting yes to approve or no to not approve?
Oh, no, yes to approve both, yes.
Okay, I will take care of that for you.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Of course.
We're still going to offer the new member rates though, correct? For the first year?
Let's not have discussion until the vote is over.
Oh,
or
sorry.
Christine will punch me in the throat.
Sorry. Just doing my
job. Be throat punch today.
Yeah.
Through a Zoom meeting.
Karen.
What?
Is that wine in there, Karen?
You wish.
I was kind of hoping.
No,
We're all
that's
gonna need a drink after this.
an hour and a half.
I feel like I'm in a car with my kids. I keep getting, are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Tom, not only are you the only president in history to not have a live meeting, I think you're going to go down as the president with the longest meeting in history. So thank you.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Mike, because I just want to add that as everybody reports on their committee, to be respectful of the time, like communicate what you need to communicate, but hopefully
Keep it short and sweet.
Yeah, keep it short and simple.
You mean
To the
like
facts.
Oh, stop.
That's
Pick
good.
up
The
my
PR
buddy
committee
John.
only has 2 videos to show, so we'll be okay.
Yeah, they're only 20 minutes each. You guys are fine. Don't worry about it.
I know where you live, Ralph. I looked it up.
I'll send you his address. Don't worry. I know.
I got it.
Yeah, I got his address. I've got his address.
Yeah, we all got it. We were all over there, going over there on the bus one day.
That's
Sarah?
right. And Tom,
Are we there
license
yet?
to kill, right? You've got the license for that, for killing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
you love this?
It's a Canadian hunting license.
How about I do my report right now while we're all sitting here? Just saying.
Hey, that's a good idea.
It would be, but it would be like, could be misconstrued as a discussion
Yeah.
while we're voting.
Yeah, we'd be out of order.
But it is just like, efficient woman to think that way.
Yeah, we got to complete the task, then we'll move on to another thing.
I have a shopping date. I need to.
Karen, you are working
Oh,
on
boy.
your day off. I know. This is, yes.
Yeah,
But-
I didn't say that.
We would miss your face if you weren't here. It would
Eric
take the
Paulson was
minute.
put in there. Eric was concerned about me accidentally taking the title of having the most longest boring meeting. And he says, the longest meeting, I remember a few board of directors meetings in the 1990s going at least 6 hours.
Oh, shut the door. That's not.
And let's not forget
Eric?
that Hawaii meeting where we voted Hawaii down.
Yeah, that was a December. It's always December. Oh,
You know why? Because here we are in Palm Springs. It just feels long because we're itching to get out and enjoy the nice weather.
Or to catch a plane. That was so.
Catch a plane.
I don't know. I'm only 20 minutes from Palm Springs on any given day.
Are you really?
You know what, Christine? You just
We go there for dinner just because.
you're
This
making
is
all of us
right.
Northern California
Nobody-
people where it's cold right now very sad. We want the palm trees and the warm weather.
Christine,
How
you're
are we doing,
lying.
Sarah?
You're more than 20 minutes.
Well, from the office, but from home. Yeah, you're right. 25.
On a good day.
I
How do
only
you
know
handle
because
that
I live
stress?
in her hometown, so
We actually graduated high school together.
we did.
Really?
Yeah, for real.
Same class.
Same class.
Ew.
Wow.
Ralph, you're cracking me up.
Small world.
Thanks, Ralph. Thanks. Appreciate that.
Sarah, how many votes do we have currently?
Give me 1 second.
Did you put Mike McKenzie's address out there?
Okay, so we have 49 votes right now. And, well, I guess we could call this one. 91.8% in favor and 8.2% not in favor.
Okay. Hey, so it passes. I just wanted to thank Mike Bullard, Mike McKenzie, and anybody else that worked on that. They went on for quite some long time, and so I appreciate all your hard work and your commitment. Moving along, I'd like to call Dean Wiley for our last issue, or our last conversation in new business.
Thanks, Tom. I'll be really brief. So with the passing of AB 1788, we realized that we didn't have the friends we thought we had at the Capitol. And Dom and Chris suggested we needed a boots on the ground approach, inviting local legislature, speaking at our meetings, introducing them to PCOC, sharing the issues. So we started looking at our districts, and our districts are hurting right now. Some haven't even met, it's been mentioned today, some haven't even met since COVID. And we have 19 districts. There's 6 that are really strong, there's 4 that are okay, and the rest are just kind of hanging on. And I really wouldn't want to invite a local legislature to a meeting with 4 people. So Tom asked me to form a committee to help guide our districts. The committee is called the District Support Committee, and on the committee is Tom Graston, Travis Mickle, Chance Howell, David Heinrichs, Dave Watkins, Chris, Karen, and Sarah. And the purpose is to guide the districts in things like running a proper meeting, how to set up a transition meeting, the roles of the officers, all the things that make people want to come to a well-run district meeting. In the short term, we want to develop tools to be able to get those struggling districts meeting again right away. And in the long term, this to me should be a standing committee that continues to guide and strengthen our districts. I mean, they're the backbones of our association. So I'm very excited about this committee. I was actually going to work on this as my president's year. So with Tom's direction, I'm just starting it a little bit early. So we only met last week for the first time, and there'll definitely be more information to come. That's it. Any questions?
Right on, Dean. Thank you. Hey, you know what? I invite anybody to send either Dean or I an email or make a phone call if you'd like to add anything to it. If you have any suggestions, building our districts is really important, especially if we're looking at preemption potentially coming down the road. Building them up and getting these relationships with local governments really important. This time, I'd like to call for the PCOC insurance report, Lee Whitmore. And you're muted, Lee. There you go.
Thanks, Tom. Can we bring up the PCOC group balance sheet and statement of activities? While they're bringing that up, I'll just make some general statements about the financials. I kind of allude to this in each quarter when we have this meeting, but you know, the financial reports that we provide that are in your packets, those are on the yellow pages. You know, they don't really completely paint the full picture of what, thank you. They don't really completely paint the full picture of what's going on with our captive program and in insurance. You know, these are not as dynamic, and really, you know, the reports that we get back that come from our offshore holdings, which are RTEX and the claims handling that we deal with, really show, you know, how the overall financial condition is of the captive, and I'll speak to that after we review this some. But you can see we're showing the checking account balance, the trust account, which is a set amount, the Schwab investment dollars at $354,072 as of October 31st. Our financial advisor, Jason Brown with Alexis Investments, invests those in a variety of different mutual funds. As of just a few moments ago, that amount was actually at $384,268. So just in the last month or so, we've realized about a 10% or so return. You can scroll on down. I'm not going to go through every line item. You can see the depreciations listed there. There are no current or long-term liabilities, and everything balances out at $1,938,947. The statement of activities, please. So you see on there, shows investment income loss, some commission income. So everyone knows we get 3% of all of the written premium that comes through the association comes back to the association in the form of commission income. So that's what generates that line item there. You can see down below in the expense section, year to date, $15,000 in consulting fees. That's the fees that we pay to Arctics Limited, which is the holding company in Bermuda that basically washes out the claims. They receive the premium dollars, pay out the claims that are made against that, and accounts for the balance. And we pay them over $20,000 a year for that service. And then we reimburse the association $3,000 a month for housing and just to help with general administrative costs and stuff, as we are a wholly owned subsidiary of the association. So based on the losses, you can see this period we got loss 1908. Year to date, we're showing income of $14,708. Any questions regarding that financial report? Okay, hearing none, I'll move on. So we had our committee meeting yesterday. It was real good. We received a report from Jason, regarding the Schwab account. And I did want to point out a few things for those of you that are interested in investment, performance and stuff. He does indicate that he expects we will see a pullback the first quarter of 2021. Those of you that don't know Jason, he's interviewed, on MSNBC Money Channel and TD Ameritrade and quite an array of, nationally syndicated programs almost on a weekly basis. We're very fortunate to have somebody of his caliber, to work with our association and its investments. So he does think that we're likely to see a pullback in the first quarter of 2021, but overall, he's optimistic about what we'll see next year, and he thinks that we will continue to see some growth through 2021. The PCOC results as far as the actual performance of claims. So they have not been good. They haven't been good for quite some time. Each quarter I've mentioned auto losses are undermining the program's success. We've been trying to capture some rate during renewals, and I'm telling you guys, I really encourage you to try to stick with Mike and Laura and understand that this is a long-term play. You can find new insurers that can come into the space and maybe beat the rates that they're providing slightly, but those guys they can come and go. And if you switch and then you try to come back later, you may see even higher increases as a result. So you really should consider long-term stability. That's the mission statement of the PCOC group to begin with. And we really appreciate those that understand that and take a look at it and see, that we're just having substantial losses in the auto run. The frequency of claims is up. The loss amounts have escalated, and we've had several shock loss claims, ones that even exceed, the entire coverage amount and get into the reinsurance dollars. So those have really damaged the success of our program. Just as an example, for program years 2017 through 2019, right now the captive is showing a loss of $701,000, and that's looking at those losses and developing them out. What happens is the claims administrators try to get an estimate of what they think those claims might roll in at. They try to do the best job that they can to hit that number, conservatively, so that, you would think that they would pad it. But what we've been seeing, in the last several years is what happens when they end up closing them out. The numbers come in even higher than what the claims administrators have put, as estimated losses. So from an auto standpoint, our committee is really, we're concerned. I've been talking about this for a while, but what we're going to do is we're establishing a group that's going to take a whole complete look at our entire auto program, consider potential changes that may, assist with making it get back to a profitable line of business. We know based on the results, $701,000 loss over 2 years, we can't recoup that just by doing rate increases. No matter, there are some of our competitors, I think Michael Glauser reported, like some of the competitors that are in the California auto space, commercial space, that, they're rolling out 25% increases across the board. We've seen, the commercial auto is suffering nationally. I know Berkshire Hathaway, which is a big player in the commercial auto market, has indicated that, they're increasing their rates across the board 7.5%. And they write a lot of that commercial auto. So the rates are going up everywhere, and we need ours to go up as well. And but in addition to that, we got to figure out some other stuff to improve the results. So we're going to work on trying to play defense a bit. We've already started some of this. Paul will talk a little bit about one thing that he mentioned last quarter, which was our defensive driver campaign, which is open to all pest control companies, not just those insured with the program. So I'll let him hit on that. But other considerations that we're having, we're looking at other things like, providing written training program templates, or even making it mandatory that our insured have that sort of program in place. We're going to explore, we provided drive cam and GPS recommendations. Maybe we consider whether or not those are required. We're going to take a look at higher deductible options, or even shared exposure for high dollar loss claims, to see if those ideas, percolate any interest in cost savings in the program. The thinking is if people are more fully invested in the success or decrease in claims, maybe we'll see better results. On the general liability side, we've had problems with recently with water intrusion claims, as well as bed bug nuisance claims. And they've really, it used to be GL was just like a cash cow that sort of offset our less than desirable auto results. But now these two issues have really sort of eroded the claim, the results on the GL side too. We strongly encourage all companies to use disclaimer language when entering attic spaces with sprinklers installed. A lot of those sprinkler systems these days are made with PVC. They're very poorly constructed. You just barely bump them, those things break. They're on a different water main. You end up flooding out the house. The next thing you know, you have, in 10 minutes, you have a $250,000 claim. That's, and you don't know where to shut the water off at because it's not the regular main. So we have some guidelines that I'd like to make sure that we put back out for everybody. You should consider whether or not, I know some companies aren't even doing work in those attics when they have those sprinkler systems, but definitely if you are, you have to have some training with your employees, with your inspectors, or if it's rodent control or whatnot. You need to make sure those folks are well in tune to what they're doing in those attics, and that you have those disclaimers to try to offset any potential exposure, in the event that one of those pipes get broken. The other thing on bed bug nuisance claims, we have one recently that developed into close to a $250,000 claim, and it doesn't appear that really there was much done improperly by the insured. These things have a lot to do with making sure that you have accurate treatment protocols. We have the MPMA best management practices. I think that sort of has become the Bible as far as doing bed bug treatments. And so your technicians should be very familiar with that. They should be documenting all of their inspections that they perform, their recommendations, regardless if the client decides to take you up on those recommendations, or actually even more importantly, if they decide not to. It's very important that those are properly documented to cover our trail. But some of the other issues have to do with simple things like contract language and onerous hold harmless agreements, or even additional insured policies. And so we review all the claims that happen over a certain benchmark of about $25,000, and then any E&O, any chemical exposure claims. But we're going to be looking at these during our director meetings and trying to come up with some good recommendations for you all on that too. So we'll see if we can't come up with some good standards that will help mitigate those claims and help protect everybody. This time I'd like to turn it over to Paul.
Great, thank you, Lee, and very, very well said. You know, in this, we're in the 32nd year of this program, and there are four great moments, or four critical moments. One is when the program started. Two is in the year 2000, when we were overwhelmed by E&O claims and multiple chemical sensitivity claims. The third most important moment was when we formed the captive in 2007. And then number four is right now, where we have been getting overwhelmed by auto losses. Throughout all these years, we've had many good years. This is a cycle. These things are things that we can deal with. I sit on a number of association programs, and this, what we're experiencing here is not unusual. We just have to address it. And what I admire about the PCOC is how we are addressing it. And with Lee's leadership and the PCOC board, we will get through this, and we will be very successful with it. As he mentioned, we have this driver training program. This is an industry-wide problem. It's not just a PCOC insurance program problem. It's an industry-wide problem, and it's national. So our loss ratio in Pest on auto is 93%. Rest of the country, 109%. So we're doing better. We just have to do much better. That's why our driver training program is for all members of the association, whether you're insured or not, we're going to do it. So our pledge, and I talked about this in September, our pledge is to put a minimum of 1,000 drivers through this program. There's no cost to anybody. So we've already done, year to date, since we started this thing in September, 200 drivers. It's a weekly thing that we're doing. All you have to do is call Laura, me, or Michael, and we'll set it up. We'll take multiple, it's all Zoom, right? So we can take a couple hundred people at one time. We can do districts, we can do individual companies, we can do multiple companies, but we're very, very passionate about that. And like Lee said, you know, there are other ways to attack this. It's, rate solves everything, right? But by the other hand, you can't get enough rate to cover losses that you can't anticipate. And make no mistake, these losses are strange, they're bizarre, they're large, cars are more expensive to repair, and claimants are more clever about how they lodge their claims. So we will persevere on this, and we will make this work. I think in a couple of years from now, we're going to be congratulating ourselves on the excellent auto loss ratio we have. The GL is still strong. You know, we're seeing some slippage, like Lee mentioned, but that is something we can really address immediately through best practices. So again, thank you. And Lee, I think I touched on everything. Did I pretty much cover it?
Yeah, Paul, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and I just wanted to tell all of you, from me and the Lindsay family, very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And we'll see you on the flip side in 2021 with good news.
Thanks, Paul. So yeah, like Paul mentioned, so our rates, our results were 93%, just so everybody understands, in order for a program to actually break even, not even be profitable, but to break even, we need results that are somewhere between 55 to, at the very highest, probably 60%. That in anything above that is where, you're bleeding out, and whatever it is, it's, and so there's a lot of money that's being lost. Last year we reduced, so in the years past, we were 40% owners of the captive, of the package. So that's of the auto, general liability, and other ancillary lines. The association owned 40% of that. Last year, because of collateral requirements based on these, eroding results, we had to take a lower position of ownership. So this year we were at 35% ownership in the captive program of those lines of business. And at the same time, while we reduced that, we also had to come up with $265,000 in additional collateral. That's the first time that we've had to do that in approximately 7 years. So that's very concerning as well. The second, we paid half of that already. We have another $132,000 that's due the beginning of the year. And, the bottom line is we need to have, you guys that are in the program, we need to work together with our drivers to come up with some better results, and what's happening out there. Have our drivers be more accountable to the leadership within your organizations. to start just having better practices, less distracted driving, no texting, all of the things. I mean, we know what it takes, we need your guys' help to do that. The other thing, what we need is you to be a little flexible whenever it comes to renewal time, and don't jump ship because of a small change. One of the things that we really need to have happen in this program is to get more premium, not less. That means we need more companies, to be insuring with us. I will tell you, there's nobody better at handling the claims when they come in. We recently made a change to go with Sedgwick as our claims administrators because of general concerns that we had with the folks that were doing it before. And I can tell you all reviews have come back very positive that change was well instituted, and we're very happy with the outcome. So if you have any questions, or concerns about renewing, I'm open. Call me anytime. I'm happy to talk to you as a business owner to business owner and sort of, vetting out that renewal. And I really encourage you, if you haven't used the association program, please give us the opportunity to bid your work when you renew. Any questions?
Lee, if I could make a comment, I'm a subscribed to the PCOC insurance program, and it's what I really enjoy about it is personal. The people that we deal with are dealing with pest control companies. You're not just a number with some large company, and we have losses like anybody does, and we had what I think was kind of a baloney G&L claim 2 years ago. And they sued us for millions of dollars, and we essentially did nothing wrong. And the insurance company could have just wrote a check, but they, argued our innocence and essentially settled for pennies on the dollar. But I think that's important to show the defense of our industry that, we're not just going to roll over and write these checks. And when you may find an insurance company that might be cheaper, and if they're not going to defend you for workers' comp and auto and these other issues, your rates will go up. And so that, what you're getting really does matter. There's quality there, not just cost. So that's my endorsement for PCOC insurance.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, that was a funny case, and it just dragged on a long time. And yeah, I could see if you were through somebody else, they would have probably settled that thing a lot higher. And then the cost of your GL is going to go up, right? And so that's one of the things that we take very seriously, and providing some oversight even to the claims administrators. Mike sits on the board, and he and I and the whole group, we look at those claims and try to do the best possible for every single one of you guys to make sure that those claims are paid out at the lowest, possible amount, So we really do take that responsibility very seriously as well. Any other questions or comments?
Hey, Lee, I'd just like to say that Laura Coy is outstanding. I mean, I call her and we talk, and she's always there for me. She doesn't have to take those calls. She could send me down to, a lower person for my claims or what have you, but she's always there for my phone calls. She's fantastic. I really appreciate her a lot, and they're doing a great job over there.
Thanks, Dean. Yeah, she's the best. That's for sure.
I'll tell her you said that. She'll like that. She had to miss a meeting, so I'll let her know.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, Lee.
Yeah.
Now let's move on to the committee reports. I ask Dean.
Thanks, Tom. I'd like to call on our PCOC Cares Chair, Ms. Christine Conejo.
Good morning. Yes, I'm Christine Cornejo, and I am representing PCOC Cares as their chair for this year. And we did meet yesterday. We did have 10 people in attendance, which is good for PCOC Cares. A very active discussion. I'm going to keep it quick. I had a lot to report, but I do have a bottom line ask. One of the things we wanted to do was have everybody rethink what PCOC Cares is. And we had a discussion, and what we would like to do is provide 10 $100 gifts to you, the companies, the PCOs, employees, or family members that may have been affected through this COVID, not necessarily through their own jobs. Pest control is doing well, but maybe their spouse was laid off, or maybe quarantine or doctor's appointments or whatever. Maybe a little $100 extra to help with Christmas gifts for kids, or maybe a Christmas dinner, or gas for the car. Just something that lets you know that PCOC cares on an intimate level too. Right now during this time. So we did introduce a motion, and it passed, that the PCOC Cares will be taking out of our budget for 10 $100 gifts. With that being said, we did add to the motion that presented here at the board, if any of you would like to specifically donate towards additional $100 gifts, we would open that up right now. You could email Sarah or put it in the chat. And we're trying to make this super simple. It's not going to be the same form that you fill out that gets presented to the trustees, for approval. It's going to be simply send Sarah an email. We're streamlining this. Simply send Sarah an email. You, as the PCOC member, can send it on behalf of one of your employees that you know might be struggling, or one of the family members that might be struggling, and just put your name, the reason why, and why you feel that this $100 would help. And then if we end up with more requests than we have donations, we will have to draw a hat. And I'm actually willing to give it out of some of it out of my own pocket. But if we end up with more money, which is always a good thing, than the requests that come in, that would go straight back into the PCOC Cares Fund, where we would like to do smaller helps like this, especially all through these trying times. So that's the quick pitch. I do want to say, which is part of reporting on the financials, the last board meeting, we did show a video, and we were planning on showing one today, which maybe we can. And we did pass the hat. During that pass the hat, we were granted very generously $2,300 just from passing the hat through this board meeting virtually, to help last quarter with requests that came in, and we actually gave out $2,500. So this board in one quarter at one meeting was able to meet the requests of that one quarter gifting that we did. I do want to thank you for that, because as everybody knows, budgets are low. So maybe again, we can do this request again right now from you. If you don't want to put it in the chat, or you can put it privately in the chat straight to Sarah, or you can email Sarah as well, and she will be monitoring how much money we do receive, and we will definitely report that back to you, because the truth of the matter is we overlook PCOC Cares. It's kind of got pushed to the backside over the years, but it really is a very important committee. It helps us, it helps you, it helps your employees, and we just want to make sure we're utilizing it and we're funding it. So we will have future fundraisers coming up, but for now, we're asking for help right now through these holiday seasons. That's the pitch. I think I am, by laws responsible for reporting the money to you, which is the pink sheets. We'll quickly get into that. Again, I mentioned that we gave out $2,500 the last quarter. We had a bank charge of $2.07. For the year-to-date totals, well, I guess I need to go through both of these. Our current assets are $32,138.63, all of which is in our Wells Fargo bank checking account. Bottom line, when you do the income, we have a negative net income loss of $2,262.97 year-to-date, which brought our total liabilities and equity down to $32,138.63. That's a low number to have in a charitable contribution. That's why I'm constantly asking you for money, but I also want to be accountable to you and let you know that every penny is being used to help your employees, your members, and our state directly. And we just want to break it down and bring it to you on the little individual needs that are there as well. Unless I have to report on anything else, I can leave it at that. And I do appreciate your generosity. I see a whole bunch of things coming up through the chat. It's going to be fun. I think it's going to be fun to be able to help people. Just remember, not just giving this money, but please, if you know someone that needs it, email Sarah with that request. It's not going to take a lot to get help to people.
Thank you, Christine.
That's all I got for you.
Thank you. Now I'd like to call on our membership committee chair, Nicole Keefe.
I'm standing in for her today. So
Okay, Karen.
58 new members to date. Still doing the same that I've been doing, reaching out to new companies through the board, trying to continue to collect non-payments. It's getting better. Sending personal non-member letters to both Los Angeles and South Bay District and to the San Bernardino Riverside District. Chris felt that those are the two strong districts that, in regard to AB 1788, so doing that. Tom put together an ambassador program with one in Northern and one in Southern, so I'm excited to start working with those two guys. And still want to work on the mentor match program, so that's another goal of mine. And my dog just let herself in. And then working on a possible blog again. So that's it for me. So.
Thanks, Karen. He may need to go to the bathroom. He's coming in to get you to take him out, right?
No, she can open doors, so she just popped in. Hey.
Okay. Thank you, Karen. I appreciate it. Right now, I'd like to call on our fumigation committee chair, Heidi Alvarez. Are you around, Heidi?
Hey, I'm going to take that, Dean, if you would like.
Sure. John, always glad to hear from you.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, I guess it is afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. I wanted to go ahead and report from our Fume Enforcement Committee meeting that we had last Monday. And, I think the statistics in this particular quarter, which was July, August, and September, really kind of denote what's really going on with COVID and kind of how screwed up things are, to be honest with you. LA County reported, and in that particular county, they had 7,615 fumigations, an inspection rate of 3.5%. It's about $61,000. And in that quarter, they generated 44 notices of proposed actions, which is a lot. So it seems like in LA County, the fumigators can't do anything right in that county. And it's going to be contrasted through the rest of the counties that are within the program. We had one investigation in LA County, and it involved a subcontracted fumigation. The licensee got a violation, and in addition to that, the branch 3 got a violation. And when they got there, the fumigator, there was no OFN, had to get a form signed. There was no fact sheet it was determined that was ever given to the homeowners, that they were not well prepared. So the fumigation progressed. Just prior to shooting the gas, the gentleman determined that they had forgot something inside the house. So the licensee took him into the house so that the gentleman could secure what he was missing, maybe scripts or something. So what was going on, the wife also entered the property unbeknownst to the licensee and went into a different room. Subsequently, the gentleman and the licensee left the site, secured the door, sealed it up, and they commenced to shoot the gas. Meanwhile, the wife was in the house. So that obviously, they got her out pretty quickly after she started yelling in the house, but That was the investigation. Certainly the homeowners really played a pretty dramatic role in this, but LA County did cite the licensee and the termite company. So let's get to the next county, which was Orange County. They do a lot of inspections, and they inspected at 3.7%, 4,400 fumes for about $35,000, where LA County had 44 notices of proposed action. Orange County had 7. So keep that in mind. San Diego County report, 2.5% inspection rate, $39,000, 4,861. San Diego County is the second largest. They had no notices of proposed action and no violations. This is the second consecutive quarterly period that they've had no violations. When I questioned San Diego County, they said, oh, the fumigators are doing a great job. That may well be the case, but I mean, obviously there's some issues with finding really what's going on within the county. The last one to report was Santa Clara County, and we had an unexpected guest at the committee meeting. Was actually the commissioner, Joe DeVinny. And Joe had spent a lot of time lobbying to be in the program. And, you know, Santa Clara County has been one of the counties that's been very dramatically hit by COVID. And they also, you know, have been one of the first ones to go on lockdown back in March and also just recently. Basically, all of their inspectors are on other type of disaster relief projects. And so Joe just said at this time, they cannot perform any of the services for which our program would dictate that they do. So not only did they not have any notices of proposed action, they actually had not one inspection for July, August, and September. So obviously the fumigators are required, you know, to pay their $8 fee. You know, we're going to follow up, and maybe temporarily that program should be suspended where the fumigators aren't paying, because Joe did not see anything really changing in Santa Clara County. So we will, you know, form a little subcommittee to try to determine what's going on. So we had a total of 51 notices of proposed action, 44 in LA County, 2 counties, nothing. So it's not really, the program isn't operating as we would like. It's COVID. You know, this is the 4th consecutive virtual meeting. We're just not as efficient, probably doing it virtually, but that's what COVID has given us. You know, we have 2 years, I think, before it would sunset. I think there's a value in having the program, especially when we're negotiating with DPR on mitigation here in the next few months. So, you know, I don't think we ought to, you know, stick a dagger in the heart of the program, but I think we've got to really look at how these programs and the counties are performing. So moving on to the next item, the annual training was done virtually for DPR. They had 40 counties, 110 people participating in the training, and it was relatively well received. Moving on to the reevaluation. Essentially, there really hasn't been very much progress. The addendum to the risk characterization document really set the endpoint at 0.75. At this time, DPR as well as EPA, they utilize a soil fumigation program for modeling. It's called AirMod. What DPR is attempting to do is to modify for residential fumigation, and their program is called AirFume. And then they need, they pick out certain jobs on data that they have received to validate the model. They're still looking at that, seeing ways to make the model better. They have not engaged on mitigation at this point. So we are anticipating that maybe in the first quarter, things will move towards some virtual discussions. As you know, we have not been able to get any of the new people out on any fumigation tours because of COVID. So that's where we are at this point. Hopefully, we'll have some news in maybe March as to where we are, but we do anticipate engaging with them on mitigation. So that's my fumigation report, and happy to take any questions if there are any.
Hey, John.
Yes.
Hey, one question about that investigation where the husband and wife were in the home. It's just kind of hard to believe that something like that could even happen with PIC being introduced into the home. I don't know how that woman was in the house at all. It's kind of hard to wrap my mind around this, how that could have happened.
Yeah, they did introduce the PIC, right? So they went in. So after the husband was escorted out, that's when they introduced the PIC, right? He secondary lock front door and closed it up, and they were all set up to shoot. So it's a matter of a couple of minutes, right? 2 to 3 minutes that the lady was in there. So, I don't think there's any lawsuits at this point that I'm aware of, but it's just very, very difficult, circumstance. The lady was in a completely different part of the house. So on the way out, he never knew that she entered the house, never told anybody she was going in.
It's probably the craziest thing I've ever heard.
Exactly. Exactly. We're very fortunate there, but it just shows the Murphy's Law. If something's going to go wrong, it certainly will.
Yeah.
I don't know how somebody that, tries to sneak back into their home after they've been told that they need to get out, how the prime contractor or the sub or anybody should be liable for that sort of ridiculous behavior. It just seems crazy to me that I would pull my hair out if they tried to write that violation on me. I don't know. It just doesn't seem, it just seems.
Well, I think it's a little ironic. I mean, the branch 3 didn't really get the paperwork done that they were supposed to do, but the couple met the crew. I mean, it's not like they weren't aware that the fumigation was taking place. The cylinder was hung with the scale ready to go. I mean, come on, they really should have accepted that responsibility, but those are part of the problems that we're dealing with in LA County, to be more than honest with you, is the fumigator can do no right. And in some of the other counties, it's just such a lax attitude that the program isn't performing in those couple of counties, some because of COVID, I'm sure. So we just have to, retrench and just like our insurance program, right? You got to kind of get things back on track. So we'll do that. There is some value there. And I'm sure we'll get it straightened out, but part of it is the leadership at the county level. That's part of the problem. So thank you, everyone. And I hope everybody, despite the pandemic, has a very happy holiday and New Year. So thank you.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it. I'm going to jump ahead real quick to the Legislative Committee Chair, Mr. Darren Van Steenwyk.
How's everybody doing today? Hanging in there?
Excellent.
Yeah. kind of seeing a handful of nods. Jason, you look like you're Jason Graff. You look like you've been staring at a computer all day. Because you have been. Welcome. We're going to keep this short and sweet. There's really actually nothing to add from what Chris was talking about earlier. We've dealt with 1788, the cluster that has become. We are waiting for DPR to come out with a bunch of clarifications on whatever they call, whether it's going to be an enforcement letter. They've got an enforcement letter going to County Ag. We have hopefully a guidance document and/or FAQs that we are going to be that we should be kind of using as to answer questions. The nice thing is that County Ag feels about the same way on this bill as we do, and they have just as many questions as we do. So that's not all a bad thing. So we're waiting for kind of again, for what all of that's going to end up looking like. But just because as a whole they feel the same way about this bill as we do, that doesn't mean that that in certain parts of the state and certain counties that people are going to be people, specifically activists, are going to be out there looking at bait stations on January 1 or January 2 and complaining and making formal complaints to County Ag. So heads up on that. Chris did mention that at this point in time, we are anticipating a legislative day that's going to look very different than what it currently does, or than what it currently has. And so we'll be trying to plan that out. We'll be working very diligently with Dom and his crew to get information out for that. Again, we're not 100% certain what that's going to look like. I think that everybody's trying to get through the end of today, let alone April. So we'll be in touch for that one. There was yesterday or the day before, whenever it was, earlier this week, was the first day that that bills could be introduced. There was nothing that was that was brought forth that we should be concerned with. Those are usually the big kind of marquee bills that legislators are going to want to hang their hat on, and none of them involved us, which is at this point, which is not a bad thing. But January 3rd is an official first day of the session, and so we can expect to see bills being introduced all the way through kind of the end of February. So we'll definitely be keeping our eye out for that, and we'll see what happens there. Any questions? I'm sorry, that's my dog.
Your dog does.
Yeah, my dog, dude, he's too much.
Okay.
Any questions or anything?
All right. Thanks, Darren. Appreciate
Fantastic.
it. I'd like to turn this. Go ahead.
I just want to say one thing.
Yes.
My report is done.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. All right. Thanks, Darren. I'd like to turn it over now to your treasurer, Greg Augustine. Greg, are you there?
Thank you. Okay. Before I call on my committees, I would like to put a little PS on my treasurer's report. I neglected to bring up the district dues and the fact that ordinarily and routinely PCOC collects the money on behalf of the district and then remits it to the district once the dues are collected. As you probably all recall, fiscal year ending 2019 was a $200,000 loss, and one of the and this had nothing at all to do with COVID. As you recall, there was a bit of a lot. The loss was for a lot of reasons, but one of, not the least of which, was the convention in Carlsbad, Legoland. So when we sent out the dues in May, June of 2019 for the fiscal year ending 2020, June 30, 2020, when those dues started coming in, we hung on to the district dues and didn't remit it. And the idea was to hang on to it for 6 months or so and then begin to remit that to the districts as we got into the year and were in better shape financially. We began remitting the monies to the districts in early January of 2020, and then COVID hit and we stopped remitting anything back to the districts. So we're hanging on to district dues that were from fiscal year ending 2020. Then we sent out the billings in April, May. We actually sent it out earlier, as point was made earlier this meeting, for fiscal year ending 2021. Those dues went out in April and May of this year. As those dues came back, the district dues were not remitted to the districts because of the uncertainty and the COVID crisis. So some districts we have actually 2 years of dues, some we have 1 year of dues that we have not remitted. At this point, I don't believe anybody's dues have been remitted for the fiscal year ending 2021, which is the year we're in right now. You know, our cash situation is stabilized. We're getting we're certainly in a very uncertain year. We certainly don't know how the year is going to play out. We're cash-wise, we're reasonably good right now, but again, we're not going to have any event revenue. As I said earlier, we're not going to have any event expenses, but we're still hanging on to the district dues for the most part. That said, some districts are cash fine and are doing fine without their district dues. This is an IOU, which we're going to pay you guys. We're not going to hold on to it forever. When things stabilize, we'll make sure that we get it to you. But at this point, we're hanging on to it. If there's a district that needs the money in this moment right now, if there's a district that's hurting, that's absolutely out of money, and we owe you money, then we need to get it to you. So either email me or Tom, whatever, but we'll take a look at it and try our best to get it to you. On the other hand, if there's districts, you know, some districts were quite generous and contributed money to the association when COVID hit. So if you're fine and don't need, you can keep the IOU open. Please keep the IOU open. If on the other hand, you're out of money and you need some money, let us know. And if we'll figure out what we owe you and try and get some, perhaps not all of it, but some of it to you so that you can stay afloat. Perhaps this goes well with Dean's committee to care for the districts. We don't want you guys to go broke because we owe you money. And as our financial situation becomes clearer, we'll be more equipped to make those reimbursements. Or it's not so much a reimbursement, but remittance. You know, we're sort of a pass-through. We're the collection arm for the districts, and then we remit it back to the district. And I know not all districts are in the same place financially, so we want to respect that. All right, that concludes my postscript. Any questions there before I go on to my committee reports? Okay, next I would like to call up, Sylvia is not available, but Sean Bradley is asked to substitute for Sylvia and bring up the rodenticide task force. Sean, it's all yours.
Great, thank you, Greg. Yeah, Sylvia had a prior engagement, so I'm kind of brief, but I want to go over the rodenticide task force met earlier this week, and it looks like they were, like a lot of us, are waiting on the language for AB 1788. So they're aligned with the needs of the association once they understand what's happening with the bill, which a lot of us are in that same boat. So, and I want to move on to the West Coast Rodent Academy. She also wanted me to cover that or just give a report on that. Really successful. Over $20,000 was raised for Quinn Lab, and there was over 300 participants for the West Coast Rodent Academy, and over 25 scholarships were rewarded. The next academy, due to COVID, obviously is going to be virtual. It's going to be March 3rd and 4th, featuring Bobby Corrigan again, and the rest of the team. PCOC members will get their discounted rate of $89 for early registration. Non-members, $129. And I wasn't able to attend that event, but I've heard a lot of positive feedback in regards to that. And we'll probably be sending a couple employees to the next one. Anybody that might have been attending the rodenticide task force meeting, if they want to add any comments, please go ahead. I wasn't there, so.
I think you pretty much covered it, Sean.
Okay, thanks, Dean. And I guess that would conclude the reports. Thank you.
All right, Sean, thank you very much. Next, I'd like to call up Vince Scoville with the Building Committee. Vince, are you there? Hello. Vince Scoville, Building Committee. All right.
I don't believe he has a report.
Okay. Moving on, Mike McKenzie, Advisory and Nominations. Mike, do you have anything to report with Advisory and Nominations?
No, I'll report on that in June.
June or March?
June. I think the only time that I have a report is June for that, because that's when that happens. I think March I'll announce that we're opening it, but that's about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mike. All right. Finally, Jackie Clark and the Scholarship Committee.
All right. Thank you so much. So I'm going to paste. No, I'm not. And if in a few minutes, I'm going to put in the link. If anyone wants to do donations for the Scholarship Committee, that would be much appreciated. We met yesterday, and we had originally, last time we had announced that we were going to go ahead and do a raffle for the 4 tickets to go to Disneyland, and since the the expo is going to be moving to 2022, we'll probably look at that towards next year. But for now, we're going to go ahead and work on doing an online raffle. We're going to do a $1,000 prize, and so once we get that all set up, we'll just sell raffle tickets, and we'll do that. So that will be coming soon. We also voted to do 4 scholarships this year. Normally in the years past, we've done $10,000 and various numbers of scholarships depending on the denominations that we've done. Thank you, Sarah, for sending that to everyone for the donations for scholarship. This year, because of with everything that's happened with COVID, we have decided that we're going to go ahead and cut back our scholarships to $5,000 just because we have not been able to do the fundraising like we have in years past. So any donations are greatly appreciated. If you go to our financial statements, our fiscal year ends at the end of September, and due to all the changes with PCOC in the state office, we don't actually have our fiscal year end from the end of September of 2020. So our paperwork for finances are all for just the month of October. If you look at our statement activities, you can see we had interest income of $261, and we had a market value change of a negative $5,801. In expenses, we had professional fees of $685, giving us a net income in the month of September of a loss, at $6,225. So if you turn to the other page for our balance sheet, you can see our assets are $266,713. And that's principally comprised of our U.S. Bank PCOC Educational Scholarship fund that's in our account that's earning interest or losing interest at this point, or losing value in the market at this point. Hopefully that has come back up, but we haven't gotten our financial numbers since this October 31st. Our liabilities and equity is the retained earnings of the $272,938 and that net loss of the $6,225. So balancing out at the $266,713. So we will also be putting out the applications for the scholarships on in the beginning of January. All of those applications will be due on March 19th, 2021. So if you or anyone in your district is interested in the scholarship, we definitely would like to have as many, have people apply to it. It will be on the PCOC website as well. And as a reminder, the scholarships are really meant for Anyone, our target market is the people who, children of those in the industry or employees, but obviously it's welcome to anyone who would like to apply for that scholarship. With that, that's all I have, unless anyone has any other questions.
All right, Jackie, that concludes my committee reports. Next, I'd like to call on Chaz Estrada, the affiliate representative.
Thank you very much. Looks like Sean gave Sylvia's West Coast. Public Relations, Ralph Reese and Blair Smith. Congratulations.
Hi, everybody. It's Blair. Yes, my last name is Smith now. I got married since the last time we were all together. So I wanted to give you an update on what our PR committee has been up to since, our last meeting. So just an update on some of our stats of our social media. On Facebook, we're up to 808 followers. So if you're on Facebook and haven't liked our page, make sure you like and follow. We're also on YouTube, Instagram, and have a LinkedIn profile as well. So, with all of these different platforms, I know that, a lot of you guys probably see them, but make sure you just like them or share them. That all kind of helps get this in, people's feeds and future members' feeds. And of course, with the pandemic going on, it's even more important that we find more ways to get in front of the audience, since we can't do it in person. Also, Foster was a huge help to us with helping us get some PCOC minute videos done. We did a feature on the West Coast Rodent Academy. Dr. Quinn and Sylvia were a huge help with that. And then this may come up in the fundraising update, but our committee had discussed merchandising. There is a Teespring, which is a print-on-demand account that's up and has a few designs up there. So that is just another way for us to promote ourselves. So that's what we've been up to. And I'm going to turn it to Ralph to what we are looking forward to doing in the next quarter.
Okay, thank you, Blair. So in the first quarter, what we're looking at doing right now is in the most immediate, this is we talked about in our meeting, AB 17, making a video for best practices on what to do in a post-17 AB 17 to 88 world. And what we talked about constructing is basically a live event that's set with a moderator style Q&A, where we're going to have some scripted questions and what have you. Then once we get to those, and they're going to be the hot topic questions that Chris Reardon has already, and Darren Van Steenwyk have already been working on. So once those get answered, and it'll be a live video experience that people can log into. Once those hot questions get asked, whatever, the popular questions, what have you, then we'll open it up to a Q&A format for anything that might have gotten missed. So it gives everybody gives people in our industry an opportunity to engage on this and ask role specific questions. And one of the things that our president wanted to be very clear on is he wanted it to be engaging to not just operators and managers and whatnot, but also the technicians that are in the field, so that way they have a chance to engage as well. So basically, we're going to try to get this as soon as we have the guidance and those questions and whatnot. Then we're going to go ahead and put this video together and have that event set up for you guys. And we'll send this out as a link, and it'll be within hopefully 72 hours to 4 days after we get all that information. So the whole point is we want to get that before Christmas time. So that being said, we also have a benefits of membership video that we're wanting to put out there, and this is going to help with the membership committee as well. It's a video designed to encourage membership as well as to work in tandem to help us support the membership committee. And that will be also posted on all of our social media platforms. So that way they don't just have to go to the PCO website. They can go to our FB, they can go to YouTube, etc. So that's what we're working on in the first quarter. And then Blair, did you want to talk about what we're doing as far as looking ahead, or do you want me to continue?
If you could do that, I'm about to hop off. Thanks, Rob.
Roger that. Okay, so the last thing after that was we had a discussion where, sort of like a guided discussion or open discussion format, where we just would post something for what project we're working on beyond those two videos and beyond that. So we talked about doing projects for other committees. One of those being immediately the benefits video for membership, but we also understand that PR sort of intertwines with a bunch of other committees. So if there's any other committee chairs that could utilize our that our services or that kind of collaborative effort, then let Blair and I know, and then that way we can put something together so we're helping to support you guys. We even talked about doing a mixer style Zoom event that would be promoted on Facebook. Blair has experience doing that, with doing fundraisers like that, and so doing again mixer style Zoom events. The other two things that came up was instructional videos on how to set up a virtual meeting Zoom style or whatnot. So there's many of our districts aren't meeting, and part of that could be because they don't have a conceptual understanding of how to do a virtual meeting. So putting together an instructional video on how to set that up and how to do that. That's something else that came out of that committee discussion there. So that's something else we're looking at. And then lastly, the educational videos would be pests and bests, basically. And it would be a series of like pests and best practices, and their videos for treatment, or you might have a pest that you might some pest videos that we might have on there as well. So pests and best practices. And so that's something that we're looking at going into beyond the first quarter. So other than that, that is the end of the PR committee report at this time. Thank you all for the time. And I'm going to tell you right now, as everyone else has said, Merry Christmas. And oh, for sure, there's no questions, right? Cool. So then I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. And please be safe. And thank you very much.
Thanks, Ralph and Blair. But the affiliate committee did not meet, so I'm going to pass this off to Mary Hernandez.
Hello, everybody. Let's see. I would like to start with the termite committee. Garrett Thrasher. Do you have anything, Garrett?
I do. Good afternoon, everyone. We're excited to announce the second annual virtual Termite Academy taking place on February 10th. It's a full day on day one, Wednesday. And then on Thursday, February 11th, will be a half day from 7 to 1. Returning the same great speakers from academia on day one: Bernard Lewis, Gail Getty, Andrew Sutherland, and Dr. Cho. And day two will be treatment approaches, WDO reporting, inspection violations with Mr. Tom Anikin, general construction, and then Mr. McKenzie wrapping it up with the sales process. So get your CE hours plus much more. It's a steal of a deal, $99 for PCOC members and $125 for non-members. We do have 2 levels of sponsorship available that are filling up pretty quickly, and we have a cap on them. So each sponsorship will be, for the affiliate level, will be $1,500, and for PCOs is $1,000. The affiliates, will get a 3 to 5 minute commercial. And, just keep in mind, last year there was about 40 members. There'll be a lot more eyeballs this year. We hope to have, close to 100 or more. So we're excited about it. It's obviously not the same as last year, but we're going to make the most of it. And, if there's anyone that would like to sponsor, we sure would appreciate it. If Sarah wouldn't mind posting the link into the chat box, that would be great. But again, February 10th and February 11th, a virtual Termite Academy, again, hosted by Bernard, with affiliation at Berkeley. And we look forward to seeing everyone there. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you, Garrett. And I'm not sure if Lauren has anything with the Constitution and bylaws.
Hey, Mary, let me just,
Okay.
I'll speak on behalf of Lauren too. We've,
Sure.
Lauren and I have been working on this, and we've just, because of the situation we find ourselves in, as you know, when we work on our bylaws, it costs us money. So we sort of set it aside. We've been engaging on the bylaw issue with Dale Stern now, but we sort of put it to the side, at least in the near term, until we're sort of financially in a situation. So.
Thank you, Chris. Next, Travis Mickle with Fundraising Committee. Travis?
Yes, thank you. So
our first full quarter as a fundraising committee. Very busy, very productive. Lots of good things have happened. You guys have been a big part of a lot of that. A couple of updates. The virtual golf, which was our first fundraising committee fundraiser, went very well. Thanks to Tom Graston for the original idea, and thanks to Adam Holt for helping with this. We ended up with 12 teams. We had $2,400 coming in. $2,300 has already been collected. We do still have $100 outstanding, which we're hoping to collect soon. We had 2 sponsors. I wanted to thank Douglas Product Pest Control. Very much appreciated. That was $175 each. And then the winning team, the big announcement, is Chris White, Dave Watkins, Rob Ives, and Jeremy Davis. They will each win a $100 gift card, which has been donated from Ashley Freeman with Bell Labs, Dave Patterson with Target, Kirk Messer with Viserys, and John Woodward with Geotech. So we really appreciate that. Huge participation there. So thank you. I think everyone had a great time. And grand total, we ended up raising $2,550, which makes a big difference, I think. So next update, bumper stickers. As of last board of directors, we had sold 78. We've now sold 104, so a little bit more. So that's 1,040 total. A huge thanks to Mary Hernandez and Hernandez Sewing for the donation of these. Please consider getting some of these. They're great for your vehicles, great advertising, very cheap way to support the association. Teespring, we do have the ability to buy shirts. I think we're going to get to that here in just a second. Matter of fact, Sarah, if you're able to share the PCOC.org website, we now have.
Real quick, Travis,
Yeah.
I actually made you co-host so that you can go on there and do that. So when you're done, just put it back over to me.
Perfect. Thank you, Sarah. Appreciate it. Let me pull this up. It's taking just a second. Here we go. Hopefully everyone can see that. I just wanted to share what we now have on the website that you may or may not be aware of. Now, get over here on the tab where it says top. You'll get then at the top that says PCOC Fundraising Committee. And here's where it gets pretty cool. So we've got shop PCOC items. If you click on that, you're going to see several options for shirts and bags and coffee cup, all kinds of nice swag that you can use. Please consider doing some donations to this. You can actually then wear the shirts, and that's extra advertising for the association. We click, I clicked out of it instead of, just give me 1 second.
Good thing that wasn't sensitive information we thought.
Yeah, I mean, the plan is not that big of a deal. That's a good thing, Travis.
All right, so we're back into it now. So again, the fundraising committee, and then here's the bumper stickers. There's now a link for that. You can see on your screen just an example of what it looks like. It's pretty awesome, so you want to try to check that out. And then finally, coolest link of all, the donation page. And here's where this gets cool. You'll see, and this is pretty cool, we now have our own logo, Pest Control Operators of California Fundraising Committee, Planning, Participation, and Implementation. And here you can choose any amount. So this is just a direct donation straight to the association if you would like to donate there. Also, I wanted to let everyone know, and you can see it right here on your screen, but we do have a mission statement now. I wanted to share that with everyone. It says, through proper planning, association-wide participation, and effective implementation of ideas, we will financially support PCOC to help protect people, property, and our food supply. So that's what we're all about. That's what we're going to try to encourage you guys to do, and we really do appreciate all the help with that. Moving forward, I want to go ahead and make everyone aware of some emails here. So let me pull them over here and then slide my screen down. So I'm going to go over a number of items that you may or may not want to participate in, but those that you do, please take these and use them accordingly. We have Adam, you'll see here, Adam Holt at Advanced IPM. Adam has been instrumental in our Big Valley Association putting together our virtual online raffles. And I know the districts are struggling right now sometimes with earning funds. This is a way you can do that, and he has volunteered to help out if you're interested. So feel free to email him if you would be interested in it. This coming quarter, our new fundraiser is going to be a swag bag raffle, and it's pretty cool. And I want to thank Ralph Reese for setting up, and he's going to be heading that one up. You see his email right here. And basically what we're doing is we're looking for commitments from companies. It's a two-step process. First of all, we're donating gift cards. And right now in chat, if you want to do that at the district, I mean, even if you can only do $50, we have, I think it's 18 districts. If every district did that, that'd be a $900 swag bag just from there. If you can do $500, that's great. Anything in between, that's great. Individuals, companies, vendors, anyone that would like to, and then basically we know what we have as a prize. You'll be getting an announcement here in a month or so for what the prizes are, and then we're going to be selling raffle to that. It'd be a great way to support our organization. If you would like to donate to that, if you're not able to make a commitment today, you can always email Ralph Reese later. So I wanted to let everyone know about that. We also would like to reach out to you on t-shirts for our Teespring, our store. Thank you to Sarah for working with me on this. And we thought it'd be kind of fun if your kids got involved. And so what we're looking for is maybe some sort of themed t-shirt that one of your kids helps design, or you can, either one. We want to get some variety to our Teespring store. And so please email that to me if you would like. My email's right there on the screen, tmickle@clarkpest.com, and we'll put some of those together. Looking forward to next quarter, we are going to have a PCOC cookbook. I want to thank Karen for overseeing that. You'll hear more about that when we get to next quarter. Just a reminder, committee members and or treasurers are the liaison between the fundraising committee and the districts. And so we will be reaching out to you to help out to spread the news to your district, take this back and share it with everyone there. I believe that's pretty much it. We will make it to this point towards gift cards. Put them in the chat. And once again, thank you guys so much for all of your help as we've moved forward with this during this difficult time.
Thank you, Travis. That was quite a report. And the last one is professional admin and pest management, and I have nothing to report on that. So with that being said, I'd like to pass it on to Dave Watkins and wish everybody a very Merry Christmas and a happy 2021.
Thank you, Mary. Hey, Travis, you still there?
Yes.
Hey, those gift cards, we just discussed it as the team that won the tournament. We'd like to donate our gift cards to PCOC Cares.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you, guys. That's really cool. And congratulations on your win.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Like to call committee chair, well, it should be Mike McKenzie and Sue Fries for the Leadership Academy. Mike, you have anything?
I was going to give a very long report, but I won't. So Leadership Academy, we are planning one again. This one's going to be virtual and it will come. We were talking the other day about potentially in like May. And the reason for that, obviously the districts will vote people in. Then we'll do a May Academy virtually. So it costs us less, much better. Should cost the districts less, cost everybody less. And we don't know if we're going to be able to be live by May anyway. But what I am really excited about on top of Leadership Academy is that our leadership curriculum that we've been talking about for about a year and a half with Dr. Garland Vance, the very first one kicked off this week. And I'm hearing a lot of great feedback. This first meeting or grouping, I guess you'd say, they focused on character. And I can tell you from the few of the attendees that I've talked to, I've heard nothing but good things. So I'll cut it off at that. A lot more to follow from Leadership Academy as well as from our leadership curriculum. So thanks for the time, Dave. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. I know Darren already gave his report, unless he has something else to talk about. Next would be PAPCO. Jim Steed, are you there, Jim?
I know that Jim's a little bit under the weather, and thought I'd just brief folks on our PAPCO report. We actually, I think some news out of PAPCO this year is why we didn't have a lot of money to play with. We threw about $13,000 just about a week before the election. Oftentimes, while we didn't have a lot of money, we wanted to specifically target folks that were very helpful to us during AB 1788 this year. We had some friends on both sides of the aisle, and we threw about $13,000, 13 individual members, $1,000 each. And some of those were in very, very close districts that came down to literally within like 1,000 votes. Good news is they won. As you know, traditionally this is a slower time of year anyway for us. But this being an election year, we thought it was important to throw some money at some folks, and the good news is it was beneficial. So that's sort of my report on PAPCO.
All right. Thank you very much, Chris. At this time, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Secretary Chance Howell.
Thank you, Dave. I'd like to call on Sean Bradley for the General Pest Committee report.
Thanks, Chance, and thank you for everybody sticking around. I'll make it as brief as I can. A lot of it we've already covered with other committees in our meeting. It was focused on mainly AB 1788, the rodenticide bill. Chris Reardon gave us a pretty thorough update as far as his meeting with DPR and waiting back for the FAQs that we have, 17 or 18 questions. So he also went over preemption and mandatory notification, which was covered earlier. One of the things I wanted to do is kind of just hear from other PCOs as far as how they're implementing, removing most of the second generation bait, moving to first gen or an acute AI, which is challenging in itself, and some of the implications of that. So I got some pretty good feedback and some stuff I'm actually going to take back to our branch and as part of our program. We're almost personally in our branch, we're almost treating it like a ban for second gens. We're just not really going to carry it. We do have some cases where we could have an exemption, but we're choosing to kind of just steer clear from it right now. Also, Ralph talked a bit about the PR committee and the video that they're doing. I've been in touch with Ralph, and we're going to try to support them as much as we can with trying to get the word out and any way that we can support them there. Another thing too was I kind of emphasized that we weren't really concerned about the folks in the room, as you know, preaching to the choir about the new regulations. It's more about outreach to those folks that are non-members, really, that aren't maybe getting all the information that they need to. So I kind of figured there's 3 ways that they're going to get this information. From other members would be 1, I guess, and 4. Just our membership. So get the word out, please. I'm sure you have already. The ag commissioners, everybody has to renew their license, whether they're a PCOC member or not. So I've talked to Chris about that a bit, some outreach there, especially in those counties where they're going to be, we're going to be scrutinized by, the activists, Marin or down in Malibu. Our manufacturer reps and distributors, I've talked with them a bit and getting the word out there. I think they're doing a pretty good job of that. And then also one thought we had with Karen and membership during that meeting, they sent out the introductory letter, basically the marketing for our association. Myself, Ralph, and a few other people are going to work on a bullet point, kind of just a brief description of the bill with kind of like contact us for more information type deal. So that's another way to get the word out and maybe even create a few leads for Karen along the way. Also, Sylvia gave us the rodenticide task force update and West Coast Rodent Academy, which was done earlier. So I think that, in a nutshell, pretty much covers our discussion. Any questions or comments? All right, thank you guys. Have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Thank you, Sean. I'd like to call on Eric Paulson with the Safety Committee report.
Thank you, Chance. Hey, Tom was concerned that the title of the longest board meeting was stolen from him, so he asked me to stretch my report a couple of hours so we can get that award. But I think on behalf of all of you, I'm gonna have to decline Tom's request. So the safety committee met yesterday, and we're working on a project we were asked to address, kind of reviewing some old documents and resources that association put together many years ago, and see if we can kind of use that as a starting point to put together some new current resources for the membership. So we made some good headway on that project and have some specific goals to work on the next quarter. Specifically, one of the main things is put together kind of a safety training resource guide, kind of outline what training points that we're supposed to be giving our employees, and where possible, hopefully for most of them, provide actual resources that members can use to train their employees. We also talked a little bit about some emergency regulations that Cal OSHA adopted and put into effect as of the 1st of December. And so that's the COVID-19 emergency regulations, and it requires that we have a specific policy, a training program, that we jump through a series of hoops. So we put information on that on our committee website. The committee website is pestmanagementsafety.com. And if you go to that website under resources, at the bottom, it has links to the actual regulation, to frequently asked questions, as well as a model program that the state of California put out for companies to use. There are a couple sections that don't really apply to our industry, so you could delete those sections, and the rest of it's kind of fill in the blanks. But it's more than just a policy. You have to implement some training and some actual practices and so forth. Cal OSHA's kind of discussion about enforcement is kind of weird, because they basically gave everyone just a couple days notice, and then it went into effect on the 1st of December. And they had some kind of wishy-washy language which says that they understand that it's going to take industry a little bit of time to come into compliance, but we need to come into compliance right away. They did not state that they're going to give us 30 days to come into compliance or anything like that. So encourage people to familiarize themselves with that regulation and put together a program as quick as reasonably possible. Any questions for me?
Like an all-day deal this meeting. I'm gonna have to run here. I'll be back by probably 3:30. Are you still gonna be around? Okay. I'm gonna kind of go over our new.
Hey, Sean, you're not on mute. Thank you.
Hey, can somebody make me the host again so I can take care of things like that?
Bye, Sean.
All right, well, thank you very much, and Merry Christmas, and have a Happy New Year.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Eric. I guess that completes all our committee reports. Do we have any unfinished business? Nope. How about a review of motions, Karen?
Okay. First one, motion was made to first by Larry Trelevin, second by Dave Watkins, motion passed. Second one was to look for location closer to the Capitol to lease and to sell an existing building. First was Mary Hernandez, second was Billy Gaither, motion did not go through. Third was motion to adopt the dues as presented today. First was Mike Bullard, second was Larry Trelevin, and it passed.
So I think Bill Gaither has something, but you can't hear him. Billy,
I think he asked as to when they were going to go into effect, and I would think not till, when
the new due cycle.
Yeah,
yes, new due cycle, July 1st.
July 1st.
Because it's going to take us a while to redo the forms, to redo a lot of stuff. So
I don't think Garrett had a beard when we started, so I like to let's get a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Fred Roseville motion to exit.
Mary Hernandez seconds it.
All right.
Okay.